Good morning, everyone. All right, let's quickly transition to my FaceTime so that y'all can see me. Hi, hello. So I'm going to be discussing the data slate update that just dropped like an hour ago, less than an hour ago actually, with none other than he's here right now live. It's Mr. The Sauce.
What up? It's me.
It's
What
your
up?
it's your
Brick
boy.
Squad. Pow, 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 pow.
How you doing, man?
Brick Squad. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm drinking coffee. I am reading a lot of internet salt.
Yeah,
A
there's
lot of
a
internet salt.
there's a lot of salt going on. Most of it coming from me. There, like I'm like a very dandruffy pile of salt. Actually, no, that sounds gross. Never mind. I'm just salty, man. Like I will admit, like I tried to go into this with an open mind, and now I'm just. But yeah, we've got a lot of homies here hanging out with us. Everybody, how's everybody doing? Welcome in, awesome one throwing in the we like dem legs, because we do like dem legs. It is shorts gang. Wait, spin it right. There we go. Shorts
Mine
gang.
aren't that short today. Mine are just regular. Look, mine are just regular. Can you see? I can't even. Oh yeah, there we can. Yeah,
There we
mine are
go.
just.
Look at them legs.
Those are regular length shorts for the people who want to know.
Prometheus, I'm salty because they killed my boy. They killed my boy. So
definitely how they massacred my boy meme is real today.
oh god, what's his name? Hellstorm Wargaming, Mikey. He made the meme of like he's not even thinking about Custodes because you know he's a big Iron Hands player. He's like Iron Hands is dead. Dark Angels or not Dark Angels. Black Templars are now the thing. So he did the Iron Hands is no longer my friend. The Black Templars are my best friend now meme, and he just like posted that to Twitter like live while he was streaming on YouTube. So I was like, big plays there, big guy.
Yeah. Dude, I think that there's some it's just there's so much that just happened. It is like an entirely new season of 40K. And I know they're going for the seasonal thing, but it's like this feels like a lot more than even just that.
This was primarily so I have to acknowledge that we got rated by my boy Moop Shark, the greatest Vermintide player on Twitch, and he is the sweetest boy. How you doing, Moopy?
Happened?
And Gothic Garlic just gifted 5 subs. Gothic Garlic, thank you so much. To Romeo, awesome one, and Lula, Skelly B, and target number 4. Thank you. What's up, KV? So Sauce, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that train of thought. I had to acknowledge our rating homies. So
I understand how it is.
you do. So I am perturbed. What do you let's start with the
I'm just gonna pull up the slate.
Yeah, the slate, you mean this slate right here that I have up on the stream because I formatted it and made it look all pretty.
Oh my god.
I don't know if the text is legible for everybody. It's really small on my tiny little screen, but I can read it just fine right here for myself.
What is this? A screen for ads?
So the first thing I mean let's roll through it. Armor of Contempt. First take, awesome. I like it.
Yeah, it's good. It buffs a lot of armies that need it actually.
Uh-huh.
I think the sisters buff might be a little much. They were already borderline good. This might really push sisters up into the next tier.
Yeah. It makes them a lot more survivable because they were so squishy with how much AP is flying around. Like I couldn't have imagined this being the kind of change that would come about. But like I was complaining earlier to you and Mappo, the lack of like Death Guard receiving this buff hurts me.
Why?
Personally. Because
why?
The fact that they are like they're supposed to be tough. Cool. They have -1 damage. Mm-hmm. Now they have -1 damage and ignore -1 AP. The hell.
Yeah.
What
You
the
know that
actual hell? That's
you know
too
that
much.
Homer Simpson meme? That is gonna be me just as Custodes right now, disappearing into the bush and coming back out as Death Guard.
Well, I mean, you've been bouncing between the two as long as I've known
Yeah.
you. So as far as I'm concerned, like you main two armies, Death Guard and
Yeah.
Custodes. So it's not really that big of a swap in my eyes as far as you're concerned. Now, if I was disappearing and being like, "Oh, hey Sauce, you want to see my new Death Guard army?" That would be the scary thing. Thank you again so much, Gothic Garlic, for the for the for the gifties and for stopping in and saying hello. So you have a lovely day. And Awesome One says Death Guard gets nerfed by indirect fire changes.
Only the Plague Burst Crawler does, but and the Plague Burst Crawler was already. I mean, you have to understand the Plague Burst Crawler was already nerfed by the point drop, anyways. Like shockingly, that was a brutal nerf to the Plague Burst Crawler because now it's not a to the last target. So basically, you just run Terminus S now. Like if you were running the Plague Burst Crawler, you were doing it just for the damage output, but you just run Terminus S now. That's all. And it's like there's plenty of answers. It's just body spam. Like yeah, that sucks that the Plague Burst Crawler did get worse, but I don't know. I feel like Terminus S with a Nurgle Demon's soup and you just take the hit on Contagion, I could actually do an entire hour-long rant about this, is the way to go.
Yeah, I played my emissaries list with Eisenhorn against Tycho from Play on Tabletop. This is before the obviously before the data slate came out, and he was running a Terminus Est list with Mortarion and like 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, a Demon Prince, and a blob of Poxwalkers amongst a shit ton of drones. And granted, some of the dice rolls did not go my way, and I may have made a couple blunder plays, but I got wrecked.
Yeah, so there's the Terminus S build is really interesting with this new update because the Terminators get OBSEC, which make them your objective holders, and they're obnoxious to shift, especially like they now have a 1-up save, 4-up invul, -1 damage, 3 wounds each. Like they're really good. That means you have to shoot them with a 4 damage gun to kill one.
And how many
It's
4
really
damage
good.
guns are there, like, right now? Like,
There's not a lot.
no. So
Not a
anything
lot.
going into them is going to be inefficient.
Yeah, so that's a thing. But the reason that you would run the demon detachment is so that you can run a great unclean one with a bell, and the bell just starts resurrecting the possessed. He just keeps bringing them back to life after they die. So you just run possess spam with terminators and a small demons detachment, probably with furies to score like engage or whatever we're in Knackman data now. There's some things that you could do with it, but Death Guard, a huge dub out of this. I think it does suck the Plague Burst Crawlers got worse, but
But I mean, on the flip side of that, like, I love how they specifically say Astra Militarum. Yeah, this doesn't apply to you. You guys, this is all you guys do. This is what you're good at. Here you go. Enjoy.
yeah, guards terrifying.
Yeah, guard went all Hercules animated feature 0 to hero, just like that. And the bodyguard rule is now what it probably should have been from the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm actually considering for my sister's list removing my sacrosancts and replacing them with a pile of Repentia.
Repentia are really good.
Because I mean, even doing the same thing of like having my Hospitaller follow the Repentia along as they go. You know, one giving the unit a 6-up feel no pain, which is good for them to keep them tougher, and then also resurrecting Repentia if they somehow survive like a couple incidental plink plink shots. So I'm Antonio. Hello. I think that this change to, granted, I wasn't one of the people that was abusing the bodyguard rule, like with the whole like Celestine bullshit where you could like put a pile of sacrosancts behind a wall, have them be within 3 inches of one of the Gemini, who's within 2 inches of another Gemini, who's 2 inches away from Celestine. So you have this like 8-inch conga line that you can't technically shoot at Celestine, and obviously now that's gone away with. But good lord, that was That was a bit of a hit. But speaking of sisters, I get more miracle dice now.
Yeah, you just get one more every turn, right?
It's one per turn instead of one per battle round, which is
It makes sense
nice.
because Eldar basically just got better miracle dice. Like their miracle dice are so much better than miracle dice.
Well, if you've
The strands of fate dice are just they're fucking great.
They
Really
are.
good.
And I feel that, I mean, while they are very, very strong, it's similar. If you look at how Custodes got their katas, katas are what the command protocols for Necron should have been.
Yeah.
And now we have fate dice, which are like souped up miracle dice. They just take, okay, what faction's coming out now? Let's give them the mechanic of a previously released codex and just make it better every time. So we can only assume Guard are going to get Synapse, but better. For they're going to take the Tyranids Synapse abilities, like with the new like bubbles that extend everything out, and they're just going to get that, but like ×2 somehow. So that's my bet. That's my bet right now. Power creep, never heard of it. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, power creep. We're not creeping. We're sprinting. And then
the creep is obvious after this update.
Yeah, the Valorous Heart change makes sense because now the whole faction is getting a -1 or ignore -1 AP. So their innate ignore -1 AP is kind of pointless. Because one, it would cause questions, and two, oh god, what if it was become like an additional ignore -1 AP? So now they're ignoring -1 and 2 AP weapons. Like, okay, everyone's playing Valorous Heart now. So they're doing away with that and making it so you cannot reroll wound rolls against them. So I think that's pretty nice. I think it's a fair trade-off, at least as far as statistics are concerned.
We'll talk about that later when we get to Custodes.
And to Custodes we will go, but first let's talk about
go back to indirect.
Oh yes, we do. Okay.
Before we move into Guard, because Guard just ignores these changes to indirect, which is actually good for Guard. Guard, they gained, because they don't have to pay for heavy weapons now. They gained like 200 points a list or something ridiculous if they want to do that type of list. But the indirect fire thing, this is something I think people didn't quite catch off the rip. If you did, poggers, good for you. If you didn't, here's the real thing. It worsens the ballistic skill by 1, which stacks with dense. So if you are shooting at me indirectly and I have dense cover, so against my Custodes, I take the dense cover banner, you are actually -2 to hit me because you can't see me, and the dense stacks because it worsens their ballistic skill, which is not the way that dense cover is worded. So they both happen at the same time. So that shifts like a Plague Burst Crawler from hitting on a 3 to a 5, for example. It makes Tau hitting, if they don't have a marker light, it makes Tau indirect hitting you on a 6. So very, very sneaky, important thing to understand about that shift.
Yeah, you know what else is important? Deep Game Spain just rated in with 101 people.
Sure.
Holy shit. Yeah, what's up, Antonio? Holy crap. Thank you for bringing the homies, it seems. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Dr. Rhino. I normally paint minis. I decided to talk about this new data slate because it affects a lot of the armies I like to play and some of the armies I don't like to play against. And with me is maker of the shirt that I'm wearing right now, Spruce Slayer Gear, ! Sauce in the chat for my man, The Sauce.
Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah, he's the one hiding behind my data slate. There he is. Look at that full face. Look at that beautiful face. Look at my twin brother.
Face made for radio.
Well, a voice made for radio and a face made for, I don't know, like, what's the new MTV, like, Everybody Wants Him show? That's this show.
I don't even know what that is. I don't watch MTV.
Neither do I. Not since TikTok. Oh, Sauce, are you on the TikToks?
I haven't posted on there in like over a year.
Okay. It's at this point it is just stubborn refusal to get on TikTok. I'm now it's becoming its own meme. Like, will Doc get a TikTok? No.
I'm the same.
I'm a curmudgeonly old man. So the like you said, the really cool thing is that it stacks
Yeah.
when firing into cover. So if you add in that -1 AP buff, Space Marines in cover, like, oh boy, you're not touching that, because that's turning a minus crap. I haven't drank enough tea yet to be doing this kind of math. Either way, like you said, that is a really nice little touch that
Yeah.
it's turning your indirect fire into like a power fist. So it's like -1 to hit. Oh, also they get a better save against it, which makes sense.
Yeah, if you're shooting at Space Marines in cover, and there's a different. I was talking to. We'll get more into that in the Custodes rip, but Space Marines in cover, if they have the benefit of dense, are going to be -2 to hit with +2 to their save.
Yeah, that's it.
So
So ignoring -4
shooting
AP.
at them. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, I think it's a good change. Indirect is just completely toxic for the game. So getting rid of most of it, at least its effectiveness, is really good for the game.
And
I'm all about that change.
And not eliminating it for every other faction, but giving the faction that, I mean, let's be real. There's two things Guard are supposed to do. They're supposed to just have blobs of dudes and then big machines. That's their thing.
Yeah.
And they're shittier Tau, but they focus on indirect fire.
They might be comparable to now.
Oh,
So
I mean now. I mean from like a lore perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just like guns, and more guns, except their guns aren't as high tech.
Is there any way to give Imperial Guard an exploding 6?
Not an exploding 6, but now they're on oh, you mean in addition to the unmodified hit rolls of 6, automatically wound now?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
So see if we can get some Death to the False Emperor shenanigans, but for Astra Militarum in the shooting phase. Yeah, those flashlights just got a whole lot scarier. Why are they also saying the Astra Militarum Lehman Russ save characteristic is a 2+ when they said that in like a previous data slate update? Or am I misremembering?
That's these all stack. It's cumulative, so it builds up over time.
Okay.
So that's not new. Some of the data slate's not new updates. Some of it's already existed. It's just they're just adding to it. It's like a rolling document.
Oh, and Antonio, I'm sorry I didn't see that until just now. Thank you. Yeah, the if you follow me on Instagram, shoot me a message. I can send you a link to the guy. He's also on Instagram. His name's Tim Tulin. He's the guy who designed my logo. He did an amazing job. Really nice guy. He's a graphic designer who I got to know personally. He's one of the people that actually helped set up Adepticon here in the U.S. So I actually just got to go to Adepticon for the first time, and I placed 7th out of 10 in a painting competition. So that's not going to happen again. I'm going for first. Your boy's going for first, Sauce. Win or die.
That's the way to do it.
Your the competitive mindset that you approach playing 40K with has somehow leached into weirdly the painting side of 40K for me. Like it's like, oh no, I'm gonna win that. I'm gonna win it. I'm doing 2 Golden Demon entries and I'm doing 2 Resin Beasts. Oh, let's go.
I feel that in my plums. I'm the exact same. This is just why I've dabbled in painting competitions. I gotta like pick my battles, you know? Like if I had a lot of time in the world, like I used to during COVID, things would be different. But yeah, I gotta really pick my time battles. So I don't really do a ton of painting comp stuff. Like I might be interested maybe for some future cons that I make it to, but not anytime in the near future.
One of which will be Adepticon, right?
Maybe not next year, but the year after.
Well, I guess that means you're going to LVO.
I don't know.
What con? What con? I need to know what con so I can be there too.
Idea. It just depends. I have no clue.
Maybe, you know what? Let's just make our own painting competition. Let's just make our own.
Okay, I'm down.
Let's do
we'll do it online.
Yeah, we'll do the Torb mini style thing, and we'll just do our own.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, keep an eye out for that, folks.
I'm similar. Like, I'm very competitive with painting, so I feel the same. but also I'm like, I just want to like, you know, play the game and have a nice looking army. So that's my primary focus.
For sure. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper into some of these additional Astra Militarum changes that are just going to be, call it Saucy Rhino. You have won the coveted Saucy Rhino.
It's just a rhino statue covered in ketchup.
That, yeah, some assembly required. Like we send them a little rhino statuette and a packet of ketchup. All right, so tank orders of a regiment. You can select one friendly regiment vehicle within 6 inches of the tank commander model instead of selecting a Lehman Russ. So now your tank commander abilities don't have to go on tanks. You can put it on. You can put it on a an artillery unit. Actually, we were just talking about artillery units. Drop that shit on a Manticore. So that just got scared.
Interesting. Yeah, because they ignore all those changes. That's actually very interesting.
Let's see here. What other shenanigans can or a sentinel or a okay. Let's give reroll hit rolls. Let's put that on a sentinel or a manticore, a full payload manticore. But yeah, the fact that you have viability, I mean, commanders can still give the commands to themselves, right? Question: had the 1+ cap been removed from the game? Hold on a second. I need
it only affects hit modifiers and wounds. So you can have like +10 to your save. Nothing stops that. It only affects hit and wound rolls. There is still a cap on that though.
Yeah. The cap. So if I have 2 things giving me +1 to my hit roll, and I can only receive the benefit on my roll of one of them. But if Sauce happened to have something that was -1 to hit, because I still have 2 +1s to hit, he only negates one of them, so I'm still getting that +1. So rather than them stacking, you're kind of banking them, which not as useful, but it is a good thing to have in your back pocket in case your opponent tries some shenanigans with stratagems or putting themselves in a piece of cover using what's the fire and fade thing that Eldar can do. So if you want to shoot at them, they pop into some cover. You're still getting 2 various +1s to hit. They're now giving you a -1 to hit. You're still +1 to hit. It's not like, oh, you can only get 1 +1, and all they need is a single -1 to remove it. If that made Sauce. Hey, whoever this Sauce painting guy is subscribing with Prime, thank you. A big dabs for you.
Real Pog Champ.
Yeah, the real Pog Champs use their Prime subs. They use those Bezos bucks.
Yeah.
Why leave free money on the table? All of us have Amazon Prime. You link your Prime account to your Twitch account, and then you just get a free sub that you get to give out once a month to your favorite content creator, be it me or preferably someone other than me. So thank you very much, the Sauce Painting, for 10 months.
Augers.
It's insane. Like it feels like I've known you longer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like our beautiful friendship has been for years, not less than a year.
You feel it in the plums. That's why.
What's this? I'm sad guard are limited on flyers. I'm not.
Yeah.
Fuck your Valkyries. Fuck them.
Worse that you can't mix regiments or whatever it is, the faction.
Oh yeah, they did do away with that.
And the other thing, that's the real problem.
But I think
this is good. Guard got a lot better. A lot better.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better. 6's auto wounding is insane. So just spamming shit, like
there was
like las guns wounding on a 6 is actually really annoying. Anything in the game. Your knight wounds you. My strength 3 gun wounds a knight on a 6. Like what the fuck? Or a 6 to hit, I mean. And then you can still roll a 6 to wound. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting shift.
So the other thing about guard, the fact that they're able to ignore the indirect fire thing in addition Do you think that means that there's going to be a greater shift to more artillery, or are people going to take more advantage of this sixes auto wound targets? Because there was a like an army of renown that was like the Cadian White Shields that if you built the list, you spam like 200 conscripts, and they received buffs for being, you know, like white shields. They got an invul save, they got like all this other stuff, they got special commands, special command I think they could receive. I remember a while back Hero built a list around it, and it was terrifying because even before all these buffs, it was a lot of damage. So I think my bet is you're going to see that army of renown resurrect, and we're going to see a lot of people throwing like 200 conscripts on the table, and you're going to see people rolling dice with like I don't know, a measuring cup. Like, okay, I'm going to roll 2 cups worth of dice.
They're gonna have to release the dice app again when Guard book drops.
Yeah, that'll, between Guard, like you would have thought it would have been orcs, but yeah, Guard are the new orcs. Fear them. No one rolls more dice than the Guard. Quantity over quality. And now they have the quality too, because they're just auto wounding on sixes to hit. And what's this next one? The each time a regiment unit with the voice of command ability issues one of the following orders to a regiment infantry unit, the same order can be issued to one or more friendly regiment infantry units, excluding officers that are within 6 inches of the unit that the order was originally issued to. So you, like we just said, like Synapse, you throw a command at one thing. If there's another infantry unit touching within 6 inches of the one you gave a command to, they get it for free.
It's pretty good.
And infantry squads, all their war gear is now free. So all the Vox casters.
That's the one that's, well, it's also things like mortars and las guns.
Yeah, it's
they can just take those. Those cost 0 points now. Yeah, I think what's a guard squad? 60 points?
Yeah. For 10 models.
Yeah, so you could just put 2 las guns in there or las cannons for free. I guess they could just take 1. Oh yeah, because it's 2 who take 1. That's right. It's not 2 bases. Yeah.
If they
you just add a las cannon to your army.
Do you
which
think
actually is going to be really important when knights drop.
Do you think this is going to change how Brood Brothers are utilized in Genestealer Cult?
I don't know. I feel like no, because I feel like don't you lose Crossfire?
No, when you
soup Brood Brothers?
But you can soup Brood Brothers, but you have to have it be less than a quarter of your army's total. So at a 2,000 point game, you can only have 500 points of guard.
I might still be okay.
But yeah,
I don't know. I don't really know enough about them. I keep losing to Genestealers, and I don't really understand because I just don't understand how that list works. They just beat me.
Oh,
speaking, it's always like, oh yeah, by the way, my army does this also, and I'm like, dude, why the fuck wouldn't you tell me that? Like, I'm practicing against my teammates. I'm like, dude, you just watch me measure out my entire army to shoot at this unit, and then you just say you can't shoot at this unit because it's not the close. I'm like, you fucking dick.
Well, to be fair, there is so much going on with the Genestealer Cult Codex. Obviously, someone who is an adept player could very easily be omitting things on purpose. But my ass would just be like flipping through the book, like, oh shit, no wait, I can do this, like right before you roll the dice. So it's more for me, it's just stupidity as opposed to being a jerk on purpose. To be fair.
Yeah.
But and speaking of Genestealer cults, I am selling a Genestealer cult army, and since we have such a lovely crowd here, I will make the announcement that anybody here in this particular chat, if you hit me up on Discord and say I was in stream where you were talking about the data slate, and I'm interested in your 2,000, 2,400 points of Genestealer cult army with the book and everything else, I will sell it to you for $1,000 less than what is on eBay. If we do 1-to-1 sales. So if you do !eBay, you'll see a link to my eBay lot for a full Genestealer cult army, painted, based, booked, whole 9 yards. But if you are in this chat, you want to get it for $1,000 cheaper than what I'm selling it on eBay, hit me up. Because you know what, tea makes me feel spicy, and I'm gonna just throw out those deals. I'm gonna just be the deal king. Now, the thing that hurts most. Let's talk about our Custodes.
So fucking dumb. Like, needed, some of it's need. Like, I understand the need to. It's hard, right? Because all of the recent data would say that there's basically almost no reason to even have to nerf Custodes. You know, like I think a lot of people, you hear a lot of people talk about the perfect game lives between a 45 and a 55% win rate. And Custodes are at a rolling 4-week 58% win rate. So sure, they need a touch of nerfing. But this is insane. I mean, there's been a lot of people in the community, like big people who like actually know what they're talking about. Like, we could sit here and riff and talk whatever. People who actually know what they're talking about are like, yo, what the fuck? My god, dude. It's just unnecessary. The data does not back this need for this type of a nerf. Just straight up. Like, this is insane. I mean, Custodes were probably the most versatile army out because you could build them and play them in so many different ways, which was really cool for a book that only has like 20 units. If you include Forge World, you know, if you don't include Forge World, there's like maybe 10 units.
Yeah, it's 9 or 10 units.
Yeah. But it was cool because you could play it in different ways. You could be like, I want to run bikes, I want to run infantry, I want to run, you know what I mean? Like, there was different ways to run it. This is like, you just play troops now. You either play troops or you play vehicles, and that's kind of it. And that sucks.
It does. It really sucks. And I saw someone right before we went live had posted in, I think it was the Tabletop Titans Discord. They said, I know you were all going to hate this, but this is how you play Custodes now. And it was 5 troop slots of 5 Sagittarum under the emissaries list with a Vexilla in Terminator armor. Vexilla's Praetor in Terminator armor, and like Trajan and a jet bike captain for character hunting as emissaries. So hallelujah. I was right. I was vindicated. It is time for emissaries to be the kings, but I did not want it to happen like this.
Don't listen to Rhino. It is not time for emissaries. And here's why. Shadowkeepers have a built-in 1 CP strat that wasn't touched that reduces the strength of incoming attacks in any phase, which is effectively baby transhuman or full-blown transhuman if you use it correctly, which was untouched. Shadowkeepers, I mean, and anytime there's against NIDs, your emissaries die instantly. You will win 0% of games against NIDs because of their mortal wound output. Emperor's Chosen might still obnoxiously be the best choice.
Well, that's actually another good point, is a lot of people thought that Emperor's Chosen were going to get their 4+ against mortal wounds dropped to a 5+.
It would have never done that. That would have been the dumbest change ever.
I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't the dumbest change ever, but I'm also saying that it's not something I wouldn't be surprised that GW would do.
Problem is that's a very generic trait for a lot of armies, and Custodes is supposed to be the durable army, so why would they have the same generic defense against mortal wounds? It just didn't make any sense. There was a lot of, oh, it needs to go to 5+. It's like, dude, you know how many armies have a 5+ against mortal wounds? Like Grey Knights can do that. They're not by any means designed to be a durable army. And it's like, I don't know. I would have literally been floored if that change would have actually happened.
Well,
I mean, there's always the who knows what they're going to do argument, I guess, but that one would have actually shocked me.
So you say that Grey Knights are not a durable army by any means, but even if they can be given a 5+, feel no pain against mortal wounds, now they're also getting ignore -1 AP, which Custodes didn't get.
Well, they can also get -1 to hit and another additional 1 to their save. So they're actually -1 + 2 to their save. So they're actually very interesting. So a Custodes player on my team is now playing as Grey Knights again based on today's data slate.
So, and that's again, it's granted, a lot of my salt on this particular issue comes from like the lore perspective. These guys have the best armor in the Imperium, period.
Yep.
They have the best weapons, everything. So now after this nerf, like regular Space Marines do a lot of things better than Custodes. Things that Custodes are supposed to be the best at. Like we have a 4-up invul save, freaking great. Everyone can dump like who was I talking with? Mechanicus have a strat to dump 6 mortal wounds. Sisters have a strat to dump 6 mortal wounds. Nids can do it with Crusher Stampede and now a bunch of other stuff that's going to come out in the new codex. So many armies have the ability to just dump piles and piles and piles of mortal wounds that just mean your invul save means nothing. So having a 4-up invul save is not as big of a deal in modern 40k as it used to be. And now all the other power armored individuals get ignore -1 AP, which we don't get unless it's on a shield character, which it's just +1 to your save. It's not actually ignore -1 AP. So what gives?
I think on paper Custodes are still more durable. It's just as the game plays, these nerfs are so brutal to how the game plays out. On paper, Custodes are still flat out more durable than power armor. Like it's actually not even close. I would hard disagree. They're very durable on paper, but the problem is as the game plays out, they don't have the longevity anymore. This completely nerfs their ability to score primary, which you've played them. They don't Custodes don't have a good secondary game.
No.
Like they just don't. Like you have to really, and that's been something I've been working on in my own Custodes list is how to write in more secondaries. And I think that this changes the argument a little bit. Like it makes Shadowkeepers a little more favorable because they have the -1 strength strat. But I think the other thing the Shadowkeepers bring to the table is you write in Assassinate into your list. You give your Shield Captain on bike the ignore character invuls, and you just go character hunting and cross your fingers that you kill 3 or more. But the thing with Custodes is they just score primary really well. They have a shit secondary game. So if you score primaries really well, but have just an okay time with secondaries, it still balances out. Like you still have a good army. But this really drops their ability to score primary, which they don't bring a lot to the table from a secondary perspective right now. So we're gonna have to write in secondaries into our list like we haven't before. My new list that I wrote this morning is 2 Caladius grav tanks, 15 Sag, 3 Dreadnoughts, a Shield Captain on bike, and Trajan. And that kind of has built into the last if I really want it. So I could take to the last on my 2 Caladius and on my Shield Captain on bike. But if I'm character hunting with my Shield Captain on bike, I might not want to do that. But I still strangle okay. I probably grind most armies okay. It's just the change. It's a lot of. It feels bad. Like I definitely.
With the change to esteemed amalgam, auspice, and martial discretion, is like to the last or even grind them down safe choices anymore. Because we used to be able to just be like, okay, I'm spending 4 CP a turn for the first 2 turns to keep these guys alive under the withering firepower that they're going to have thrown at them, because turn on transhuman and you don't get rerolls. Well, now you can only use that ignore reroll 1 time in a game.
Yeah. Well, it just says 1 time. You can only use it once. So yeah, it's actually for life.
Yeah, for life. Like, okay, guys, remember this from now on. You get it in it's 1 game, so save it for the big tournament. Otherwise, GW is going to send the guys in the black coats after you. I think Mrs. Sauce has summoned the sauce.
Yeah, well, you get it once a game now, or once ever. It depends on how you want to read that rule. But you it's honor code. So basically, you get to use that stratagem once ever, and then it's over. Then you put your army on the shelf. You never play Custodes ever again.
Until the next book comes out, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we meant once per game." And you're like, "Oh, I can play my game. I can play my army again." But it really hurts that auspices specifically went to once per game. To me,
all of it's dumb. All of it. once a game is unbelievable. The problem is everybody's just such a fucking whiner about Custodes winning. They're like, it's hard to kill them. It's like, yeah, dude, they have 20 models. Of course they're hard to kill. Like the army has 20 models. What do you expect? People just don't know how to deal with it. They don't have the type of list. People didn't change their list to be able to kill Custodes fast enough. And the way you kill Custodes is a shitload of AP -1. A shitload of that. You can't roll that many threes. And people are just like, it's hard to kill him, and it's like, so of course people bitched and moaned, and this is the result, and it's horrible. It's just insane, dude. Like Custodes have a rolling 58% win rate. That is in a perfect meta, just barely outside of where you want to be. Like it's unbelievable.
And then you compare that
Absolutely
to
unbelievable.
Tau and
Tau's just barely 1% more, but Harlequins is the problem.
70, what was it at Adepticon? 76%
The
win rate.
Adepticon stats were unbelievable. I mean, the most if you include the mirror match, Harlequins have a 83% win rate, which is effectively if you roll a dice on a 2+, you win. That's the greatest analogy about how strong Harlequins are.
Mm-hmm.
And Tau, I mean, have a 59% win rate, so they're not much better. I think that there's an interesting argument that Harlequins bring down the win rate of both Tau and Custodes, right? So if we just nerf Harlequins, then maybe Custodes and Tau get better again, and then they're really strong again. But so it is important to bring down both armies at the same time, to nerf the living shit out of Harlequins and to bring down both Custodes and Tau a bit. But this feels overdone on Custodes when Tau doesn't really feel the same. Like Tau takes the hit on the indirect build, but that build was already kind of going away anyways. At least in my meta, people aren't running the indirect fire crisis suits anymore. They're running plasma and the lot of shot crisis suits. I don't even remember what it is, which are really good.
Oh, the Gatling gun crisis suits?
Yeah, they're really good, especially with NIDS coming. There's your answer to bugs, is a shitload of shots. So the indirect crisis suit spam is already kind of leaving. So Tau, I don't know. We can get more into that. And I don't know a ton about it, but yeah, Custodes, man, massacred. It's hard. Like it's just a complete list rebuild, and we'll see what it actually looks like. But the current list prototypes and the play style is gone, and now we have to kind of rebuild what that looks like. And maybe the new list will be good. We got to test it out to find out. The Art of War guys have already been testing lists very similar to what I think will be pushed into. But the problem is we're pigeonholed. It's like it went from a very versatile book to like you just have a couple of options now. Like bikes still maybe have a place, but they're just glass cannons now. Very expensive glass cannons, which is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to run a shitload of troops because infantry lost OBSEC, which is insane. Like these other, like if they only changed the other things, I would say okay. Like each one of these 3 bullet points, if it was 2 out of the 3, each one of these would be like, okay, that's a lot, but fine. But specifically infantry losing OBSEC is unbelievable.
Yeah, the fact that it's only
so
troops.
Insane.
Like
So
your
insane.
Terminators, like being able to drop a Terminator, like they got one unit sitting on a back objective, you drop it, you deep strike in a Terminator, charge in, do some fighting, hopefully kill something, and then because it counts as 2 bodies, you take that objective. Well, now no. It's just, or it does count as 2, but it doesn't have OBSEC.
Not OBSEC. So what's the point?
So
in a game
one
where
lone
OBSEC
guardsman from a guardsman squad holds the objective.
It's so insane to me. And like I could live with some like I just don't know. It's just a lot. I mean, we now just have to lean into things that didn't use these strats. So vehicles. So dreads get better effectively in comparison.
Are Sisters of Silence any good now?
Yes. With well, they didn't lose OBSEC with that. It's just the first bullet point.
Yeah, it's just
So they
Abdectus
still have
Custodes.
OBSEC.
Yeah, so you could still
Sisters are good because of NIDS. I have started running Sisters of Silence literally because NIDS are coming. So I have Sisters in my list. So I think one tech piece to think about when writing a Custodes list is for 150 points, you either take 1 SAG unit or you take a unit of Sisters and Greyfax. Those are the same amount. So you can kind of tech your list on that one unit swap depending on what you need, which has been really interesting to kind of keep that in mind when list writing. But Sisters of Silence are really good because they themselves are not that good, but the strats they unlock are. Um, Especially in a psychic heavy meta. Very excited about that. Greyfax is very good in a psychic heavy meta because she has +1 to deny. So they have -1 to cast. She has +1 to deny, and she can deny twice. She's good. So yeah, I'm still gonna be running Sisters of Silence. I think. I would need to look at so the list that I just wrote. Yeah, it's 15 Sag. Which how the fuck did we get here? Where I'm writing a list, like seriously writing a list with 5x3 squads of Sagittarum.
I think I need to make another 5 Sagittarum for that exact reason. I have 10.
Yeah.
I think I need to go to 15. But I
It's
also
either
think in my list I'm gonna drop. I have 2 units of 3 bikes. I think I'm gonna go to 1 unit of 5 bikes and use the remainder along with some finagling to maybe throw in a unit of the Witch Seekers. Get some flamer action on them, possibly a unit of prosecutors as well. And I think I definitely will be swapping out Eisenhorn for Greyfax.
Oh yeah, it's either Greyfax or the base Inquisitor.
Well,
Draxus is interesting for the fight last ability. I don't run her, but
Xenos is great because they have the psychic ability for turn 1, turn 2. Like when you're working to get within range, if you're doing mental interrogation, which is why you're taking them. Xenos has a psychic power that on a 4-up, you cannot target them, period, unless they are the closest target or closest model to you, and you cannot declare a charge against them unless you are within 6 inches. And then they have a grenade that'll make them fight last. Or Kira Draxus, the Xenos Inquisitor, has that.
Sisters of Silence did not get the ignore AP -1, by the way, to chat.
No, they did not.
No, because God forbid Games Workshop do any sort of thing to balance this nerf on Custodes.
Let's look at it from a model selling perspective. Like, okay, sisters get better. Then we people get excited about sisters. People buy sisters. People like me buy a shit ton of sisters and then realize they're okay. And now you give them this power, which also the armor of contempt makes sense. Anything that apparently isn't Custodes gets ignore -1 AP. Sisters of Silence ignoring 1 AP makes them amazing. But alas,
it would certainly help balance the rest of this.
So let's move on, because I want to talk about, like, I'll be real. I know Mechanicus was a boogeyman for a very long time, and they got nerfed into the dirt.
Have they changed anything in this update?
The walkers, the chicken walkers, the Ballistari, and the Dragoons don't have core anymore, which I think was part of a previous data slate update.
Okay.
The each time an attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated unless the model is receiving the benefits of light cover. This is super wordy to say they always have +1 save against damage 1 attacks. They can now use the clandestine infiltration stratagem only twice per game. And like a lot of CP changes. The next let's pull that up so that we can actually see it. The Space Marines, this change for Salamanders actually makes me really happy, because oh no, wait, this only affects playing Salamanders themselves, not my Salamanders successor chapter. So either way, it's now they get the each time an attack is made against a unit with this tactic, the attack's wound roll cannot be re-rolled. So that's cool, because I think this is also similar to the Valorous Heart thing with the changing one of the tactic abilities, because it was made redundant by this armor of contempt.
So the Valorous Hearts the Sister thing. So sisters have just built in you can't re-roll a wound roll, but custodians can only do that once a game now. Just want to make that point.
But we believe harder. I'm not saying, I'm saying that sarcastically. That's not an excuse.
Like, what the fuck are we doing here? But okay, continue. Yes.
And now Chaos Marines, the Death to the False Emperor is changing to each time a model with this ability makes a melee attack, a hit roll of 6+. New. Yeah, it's I think it was
very important thing to know about this, if you didn't know already, is that's a hit roll of 6+, not unmodified. Chaos have a lot of ways to get that to a +1 or a +2 even, so they could be exploding hits on 4s.
Yeah,
so, there's play against Chaos, especially I believe it's the purple ones. Fuck, what are they?
Emperor's Children.
The Slaanesh ones. Emperor's Children. I think that they can get troops to like a 4+.
Yes, there is or at least the way the book is currently written. And now Blightlord and Deathshroud Terminators have fucking OBSEC.
I am going to play Death Guard again, just flat out. I would like to probably paint more of my custodians. I'll probably play them. I have 2 GTs this month, so perfect timing for all this bullshit. But I'll probably be playing Death Guard again this summer.
Yeah, your Terminators get OBSEC. Mine don't. Custodies don't get OBSEC, but yours do.
Yeah, you're the Chaos. Are you a 20 model army? Fuck your OBSEC. Can you take a shitload of models? Give it to them. I mean, actually, Death Guard do need a buff, so I actually am down with this. It's just, this is the whole argument about the meta. Is it's like it's not a vacuum, so it's not. You can't say, well, if they get it, I should get it. That's not how it should be. It just still feels like shit.
Yeah, and Prometheus is like, I could see the rage in Doc's face. There is a bit of rage, but it's more like humorful rage. I'm not going to tournaments. I'm not worrying about like super meta lists. I just like these inconsistencies, exactly like you just said. There's like, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. The idea that like, well, if a Death Guard Terminator that it lives in the elite slot that costs this much per, basically a carbon copy of an Alaris Terminator for the Custodes, if they get OBSEC, shouldn't my Terminator get OBSEC? Like you have that thought process because they are essentially, point for point, pound for pound, close to the same unit. Actually, although I would give a lot of edge actually to the Blight or the Death Shroud Terminator specifically. If you do one souped up Death Shroud Terminator versus one Alaris Terminator, the Death Shroud Terminator is going to win. So I guess in that respect.
A Terminator heavy build. I'm going to pull up Terminus S right now to just retouch up. I think that you run Terminus S because you really don't care about Plague Burst Crawlers anymore. I think that the only reason you didn't run Terminus S before was because of Plague Burst Crawlers, because they were really good. Them not being able to be to the last choices hurt them, but their shooting was still really good. Now with the nerf to non-line of sight shooting, they're just not. I just don't think you run Plague Burst Crawlers anymore. So then that means that you can run Terminus Est. Terminus Est is fucking interesting because you get some very fast shit in there. I'm trying to pull it up on Wikipedia. I don't even know.
Terminus Est is the one that gives you the ability to really soup up the speed of your Poxwalkers. Yeah. Oh, look at them legs. Let me see them dem legs in chat, folks.
You like those?
I do like those gams. Those are some gams.
Okay. Terminus Est. Here we go. Poxwalkers are very fast, and you can just revive a whole unit.
Yeah, that was the other thing that
you get access to.
You were playing Terminus Est when you and I played our famous game on Tabletop Simulator that like the game literally crashed because of the amount of models on table. Oh.
I wasn't playing at that game because I had tanks.
Oh shit, you're right. But you still had 3 units of like 20 Poxwalkers. I had to bring all Flamestorm Gauntlet aggressors to even have a chance against that list. And I still lost.
I don't know if Plague Followers. Where does the word plague followers come from? Because if plague followers could be given to Terminators, they can just shoot stuff in combat or shoot other things out of combat, I believe, which is pretty insane. Okay, so Terminus S. Why Terminus S, I think, might be worth looking at again is if you are not running vehicles, Terminus S is interesting because you could put the way that their reserves work is actual deep strike. So you could put units that have no business being in deep strike. So Possessed, for example, you could write a really annoying to the last list and just never bring your to the last units on the table, which is hilarious. You could deep strike Possessed at basically any point in the game, which is hilarious. Combo that with the Great Unclean One, and your Great Unclean One is reviving the Possessed. There's a Possessed build that I was running before I was running Custodes that you can get Possessed up to T7 Strength 8. 2s or 5s to wound do 2 damage, 6s to wound do 3 damage at AP -3. There's some fucked up Possessed builds that you can make. And now they ignore AP -1, and they have a 5-up invul, and they can be revived, and you have Blightlord Terminators holding objectives who are 1-up save, 4-up invul, -1 damage with 3 wounds. It's worth playing with again. Demons bring some very interesting scoring things to the table. Nurgle Furies are insanely good at engaging and Nachman data, so you write a shitload of secondaries into your list. It's worth re-examining. I think that the problem with Death Guard previously is you kind of had to take the vehicles. Now it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like that reopens it up, so you don't feel obligated to bring Plague Burst Crawlers, which means you could bring Terminus S, which means you just deep strike shit where they don't want it. You put things where you don't want it to score. You have these Possessed that literally kill anything they touch and keep getting revived. There's some pretty horrendous combos you can make between the Death Guard book and the Nurgle Demons book. And all that costs you that people are like, well, how can you do this? It just costs you contagion. But if you're strength 8 with +1 to wound, well, who gives a fuck about contagion? You don't need that. When I started running Death Guard and Nurgle Demon Soup, the thing I literally at no point in my list miss contagions. You don't need it anymore. And so, especially if you want to play a non-interactive, just score points style of list, you just put a bunch of Blightlord Terminators on an objective, and they don't kill them.
Yeah.
It's so hard to kill Blightlord Terminators, especially with the damage reduction. Like, people have been memeing, like, why do people care? Like, this whole argument that like Custodes, right? People are like, well, Custodes only do flat 2. The whole book is flat 2. What are you going to do in a damage reduction meta? The whole meme since then has been what damage reduction meta? That's not real. But you could actually write some serious damage reduction lists into Death Guard now. There's value in it because it's scoring probably really high. They score primary really well with Blightlord Terminators now. Mm-hmm. You write great secondaries into your lists. You can be bold and try summoning to keep your contagion. Why though? Contagions are not worth not bringing the Nurgle detachment because when you bring a Nurgle detachment, you unlock demonic loci. Demonic loci means that whenever a 6 to wound does 1 extra damage, period. If you're within 6 inches of a Nurgle demon character, which you are.
Disgusting.
You also bring the Great Unclean One, who good luck summoning him. You're never going to summon him. He's integral to this list so that you can resummon your Possessed. Also, you bring an Epidemius, who's just fucking disgusting. Yeah. You could summon. You're not wrong, but I think the stronger version of the list, you just say fuck contagions and you just bring a Nurgle detachment. So I think Death Guard are very interesting again. They're worth testing. I don't know. They could still be shit tier, but just bubonic, like Astartes getting +1 to their, well, it's Heretic Astartes, which they all have. And Terminator's getting Obsec is just strong as shit. I don't think you run Death Shroud. I've never liked Death Shroud. I don't get it. I don't get them. They're good because I guess it's a cheap unit. I think it's 150 points for 3 or something like that. I don't know.
So I am actually this is Doc makes his prediction based on like okay, you guys listened to Sauce. You listened to him lay out very succinctly a great argument for the power that Death Guard are going to have. And now I'm going to make a prediction based on nothing. So here's my prediction. Death Guard are going to place in the top 3 minimum of every tournament between now and the next data slate, where they will be nerfed again.
Every tournament?
Every tournament.
That's not going to happen. That's the loophole in your prediction.
Every tournament.
You will see Death Guard win something probably in the next 30 days, which hasn't happened in like 9 months, I think. But I don't know about that. But I think that they need to be play tested. There's something in that list that changes. A lot's changed. -1 AP is really strong. OBSEC really strong. It's worth relooking at.
So
I don't know if it's good. I just think it's worth. I played a lot of it. I played a lot of the Death Guard Nurgle Demon Soup. There are some interesting things. One of the important parts of that list was Plague Burst Crawlers, which are now worse. But I mean, if you really want to lean into it, Mephitic Blight Haulers were untouched. You can resurrect Mephitic Blight Haulers if you're unfamiliar with that combo. They just come back to life from a Great Unclean One, which is absurd. T7 9 wound models just getting resurrected for free on a 4+ is absolutely nonsense. They are a delivery system for possessed, unless you run. If you run the Terminus S, you just deep strike your possessed. But if you don't run that, you walk your possessed up behind the Blight Haulers that are getting resurrected, that are -1 to hit, that are +1 to their anvil. It's so gross. But it just that list would lose to Tau. That's why I stopped running it. That list had Planet Custodes, but 0 shot into Tau. But now with Tau, specifically Tau Indirect is what really killed Death Guard. So I don't know. It's a shift, right? So we'll see.
Yeah. And
that's
now,
the Death Guard rant.
And now Drukhari, I'll be honest with you, I could give a shit. I could get like,
are very good.
Well, they are, but the things I'm seeing as changes, like the first one. Let's take the first one for example. This is a no duh for me. The Talos and the Chronos don't have core. Good. Yeah. Fucking good. Like duh. They shouldn't have had core to begin with. But that'll change Thick City. I think Thick City just ceases to exist now.
Yeah, it's just Drukhari good stuff now. Which is just a lot of grotesques. Which is still very good.
And then the rest of these things, aside from the loss of core and the association of the Talos and Chronos with Thick City, I don't know how any of this other shit works.
I believe the only thing that was actually updated on this slate was the second bullet point, moving to 3 inches instead of 2. I think that was the only thing on this. Everything else existed. Definitely the last one, the -1 damage, definitely already existed. The top one, the core changes, already existed. And I think that the Dark Technomancers one did. So I feel like the second bullet point is new.
Okay. Well, now that
Nothing
that's done,
to Necrons.
No, wait. I thought these were no. You're right. Yeah, the reanimate specifically the idea that, especially from I can't help but think about things through the lens of lore. The idea that I think everything in the Necron Codex, everything should have core, because their whole thing is they're able to be directly controlled and influenced by the overlords, the lords, those high-ranking members of your HQs. They're able to control everything. Yeah. So the fact that so much of the Necron Codex now has core, I love. I think that makes both narrative sense, and it also actually makes them slightly less shitty. Next, orcs.
Still same. Nothing changed there.
No, well, now they cannot include more than one of each.
That was the last status.
That was the last one? I thought it was the limit to oh no, that was aircraft.
Yeah. This was the last data slate. People are saying that orc buggies got nerfed again, and the only reason for that is because of the non-line of sight firing is worse.
Right.
So buggies actually did get nerfed again. That is actually true. It's just that one type of bug he did, which I don't even remember which one that is. I feel like it's the scrapjet.
Yeah, the
Or I don't know. It's one of them. One of them has non-line of sight shooting that is good, but it's not really. It got worse.
the
So
Rucka Truck Squig buggy with the Squig launcher was the one
is that what
that
it
was the
was?
big boogeyman for a while.
Whichever one of them has non-line of sight, effectively is now slightly worse, but no other change works.
8-Bit Sweater actually makes a good point. Thousand Suns are eating good in this data slate. Yeah, now Thousand Suns have
Gene Stealer Cult is too.
yes. Any data slate where you are not specifically mentioned is a buff. Minimum.
Thousand Suns got better because of Heretic Astartes, or are they Satanic Astartes?
No, they're Heretic.
So do they ignore AP3 now? Wait, because don't they ignore AP1 and 2, and now they ignore another one?
I think actually I don't think it stacks. So for them, I think this is kind of a not. Oh god, if they're now ignoring AP-3,
let's look it up.
Oh Jesus,
is that power all is dust?
All is dust +1.
So they +1 ignore 1. So they ignore AP2.
They ignore AP2. Fuck.
That's good.
That's really good. That is very good. 8-Bit Sweater is now creaming in his pants.
Yeah. So on their Terminators have a 2-up. So if you have AP3, they have a 3-up. Tight. Their Terminators were really good also. Their Terminators were very good, actually.
The fact that you can, what is it, a 1 CP? What is it, a 1 CP strat to just bring back like D3 of them?
I don't know all their shit. I've only played against them once.
I had it played against me where a guy just goes like, okay, I'm gonna roll this, roll a dice, spend some CP, and I just bring back Terminators. I'm like, oh motherfucker, this is not going. Help. Okay, yeah. Harleys. Oh, tasty. Now your Star Weavers, models of 1 in a unit.
What is it? Star Weavers?
Star Weavers are now 1 per unit. Void Weavers are still 1 to 3, but they went up by like 40 points.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I'll ask you 2.
Okay.
Do you think that this is enough of a nerf to Harlequins?
No.
Okay,
it's a start.
Have you played against the Void Weaver list?
I have not.
Okay. I've played it 5 times.
Oh God. So, I mean, then I'm glad I have you on. Like, tell me about your experience and how these things will potentially influence it.
The Void Weavers, you run 6 now. That's just what you run. Which a guy on my team was already running. I actually played against effectively what the new list would be Tuesday. He only runs 6.
Is that 3 units of 2 or 2 units of 3?
He was running 3 units of 2, thinking that the unit size would go down.
Okay.
This is a very interesting change. You will notice that this is, other than guard getting war gear for free, this is the only time in the data slate that points have gone up. And I think that this is very important because GW said in the first data slate, the point of these data slates is not to affect points. So, or the primary focus, which means every once in a while they're going to. So they think that Void Weavers are such a problem that they did increase them, which is important. So this is a good indicator that they are aware of the issue with Void Weavers. The problem with this is it doesn't do enough to Void Weavers, because I have gotten absolutely destroyed by 6 Void Weavers, which now, to be able to run 6 Void Weavers, the list right now, the 9 Void Weaver list, all you have to do is find 240 points to run 6 instead of 9, and your list basically is fully intact. There was no changes to light, which is what makes Harlequin so strong. The points going up doesn't really change, because Harlequins will beat you with what only feels like 1,000 points. There will be a couple hundred points of models on the table that have done literally nothing the whole game, that you're like, what did you do with that? And they're like, nothing. It just sits there. And that's the problem, is I think the Harlequins can beat you with 1,700 points. So yeah, it's good that the points went up. A better nerf would have been to limit the unit size, because you could still run 6 in Drukhari Soup, which hurts. I don't know. I don't know if it was enough. I feel like somebody could easily find 240 points and their list is effectively the same. Light and Void Weavers are still very, very good together. Now, the change to the top bullet point changed it from an aura to a point, right? So in the command phase, you select a unit that's -6 inches to shoot at, which is good. That is a slight nerf because it wasn't aura. You just walked this guy around in between 9 Void Weavers, and all of them were -6 inches to shoot at. Now only one of those can be, but you still have the other 3 because that's what I think you're just going to see 2 units of 3 now instead of 3 units of 9. And all you have to do is find 240 points. So you're now just probably dropping a couple Star Weavers that your troops were in, and you're just starting your troops on the table because the Star Weavers don't really do anything except for move around. They move your troops to stuff, but you don't really like it. Still is a non-interactive list. It still takes to the last. It still takes banners. It just sits in its deployment zone now for sure. Like it's really not moving now. It just banners to the last, maybe stranglehold. I don't know. It just doesn't die. And so that's the problem is when a list is not interactive, losing 240 points doesn't feel that bad because it still is nearly impossible to shoot at. You still have to run to them. If you charge them, they can still move 6 inches. Um, I don't know. It's good. Like I think that Harlequins are still going to dominate with Void Weavers. I just don't think. For example, salvo launchers on Custodes bikes. You're really familiar with salvo launchers, right?
Yes.
You need to shoot 6 salvo launchers at 1 unit of Void Weavers to get one of the missiles through.
Fuck. And
So
that it's not going to kill it.
That stack has changed 0%. At best with the salvo, you kill 1 Void Weaver, and you still have 2 left in the unit. It takes you 6 missiles to do that. So that type of shooting is really what you're talking about. It's just they're so non-interactive. Like you really just can't shoot at them. And to keep that list alive, you just need to find 240 points, which you're just going to remove the Starweaver transports. Done. And the list pretty much just does the same thing. It just you don't shoot at it, you don't do anything to it. It scores points. It to the lasts you. I don't think that really much changed, to be honest. The change to the favor of Kagura is very. It actually is good. Actually, nerfed the living shit out of the Death Jester. So maybe you drop the Death Jester, who is I don't know how many points, and then 2 Star Weavers, and there's your 240 points to run this list. Because I don't think a Death Jester is very good anymore. He was very good with the previous version, where you just turned one of your dice into a 6, and we're just exploding hits all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You just auto hit and exploded, which is great for a character sniper. That's gone. So I just don't think you bring him anymore. And so then you probably bring a Star Weaver. But this is, I don't know them super well, but this would be my guess from the games I've played is, yeah, you just drop your Death Jester, you drop 2 Star Weavers, there's the points. Now you just run 6 Void Weavers instead of 9. The list is still very fucking good. I don't really think that it was enough. I think people are gonna be like, oh, 40 points, man, like Void Weavers are done. It's like, no. Now you just have to play 6.
Yeah, okay, you lost 1 unit of 3. Okay. The spreading those across your like the line of your opponent's deployment zone. If you go first, like you still have enough units to trap them in their deployment zone if that was your intention with them. So that's how it like makes sense to me, is like you haven't taken away enough of them to keep them from like blocking me significantly.
Yeah. They still to the last. They probably grind you. You have a very hard time killing them if they play very cagey. If you play on good terrain, you just park your troops on objectives. They're not going to be shot at. You definitely aren't killing the Void Weavers. So they're actually probably grinding you, because if you get in their kill box, which is 24 inches, you're fucking dead. They will kill you. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Like these changes, I would say I would like to know your guess. If they were rocking a 76% win rate coming out of Adepticon with these changes, one, do you think their win rate percentage will be changed? And if so,
yeah,
how much?
It'll go down.
But how much?
They're certainly worse. but not by enough to change how good they are. Like like we're talking, it's like I bet we go from like what they're currently at a rolling 72% win rate or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For 4 weeks, they'll go to 65. Like this doesn't really change anything.
Oof.
I think they could get. The problem is that I mean, we could get to it at the end. Nids are completely untouched,
Yeah.
and their book could potentially desecrate Harlequins based on mortal wounds. Harlequins, the easiest way to kill Harlequins is mortal wounds. Nids do mortal wounds better than any psychic army that exists.
Take that, Thousand
And
Suns.
oh my god, they make it look like you've never smited before. And so I don't know. It's possible that Nids could gatekeep Harlequins to a lower win rate, but Harlequins are still nearly impossible to beat for a lot of armies. Even with these changes, this doesn't change the mechanics of what makes them good. It just says, let's price raise this unit out of the game. And all it does is price raise one unit of 3 out of the game. I still think you're going to see 6 Void Weavers fucking everywhere.
Do you think do you think there was a stat change that could have happened that would have done this more effectively?
Yeah. They should have changed light to 24 inches instead of 12. Are you familiar with the light mechanic?
That's the one that lets that's a boost to the save, or is that a down? Explain it for me and the people.
Works like this. It's 12 inches. If you are outside of 12 inches, you fail a hit on 1 through 3.
Oh, right. It's hit transhuman outside of a certain range. Right.
That's it. If that would go to 24 inches, that changes things a lot because then you just got to get then you're inside of their kill zone, so you have to kill them before they kill you back, but at least you have a shot. The problem is if you're between 12 and 24 inches, you're not killing them and they are definitely killing you. So, yeah, that's Harlequins. I don't think that they changed the mechanic about what makes them good. They tried to price point a unit out of the game, and all we're going to see is people just take 1 or 2 less transports, the Death Jester's gone, and we're going to see effectively the same style of play, the same list, just 3 less boats, and that's literally it. I think you're going to see 5 less boats on the table total. 2 transports, 3 Void Weavers, 1 character. That's it. That list will still beat me every time.
That sucks.
So I've been beat by Harlequins with what feels like 1,000 points on a couple of occasions. I almost beat Harlequins once, but it's because he made a huge movement mistake and was not. And my Achilles Dreadnought just tanked saves. I was like, if you do not kill this, he finished his move, and I was like, do you want to remove them? Because if you don't kill this Dreadnought, he will heroic into your boats and kill this whole unit. And he was like, nope, I'm going to kill this Dread. And the Dread had 1 wound left and killed his whole unit of Void Weavers. That was the closest I've ever been to beating Harlequins, and that was just a huge mistake on his part. And so that's it. But it's like that's the type of the mechanic hasn't changed. Why they're good hasn't changed. This isn't enough points to price them out of the game.
Gotcha. Next, Tau. The second bullet point of the Mon-Ka ability will read each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack that targets the closest eligible unit within the range shown on the table below. Re-roll a wound roll of 1 as opposed to additional AP. Yes. I'm cool with this. I'm cool with this. Basic troops throw in -2 AP. Woof. First bullet, it's fine. I always forget the AP. Well, having played against somebody who did not forget the AP, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Because it used to be within -9 and it was -1 AP, so they removed that. So if you're within 9, it's just counts as being +1, but not an additional AP. Is that what you're saying?
Depending on the turn, the Mon-Ka range like shrinks as the turns go on, but I think it starts at 12. So if you're within 12, shooting at the closest eligible target, you used to get an additional pip of AP. And then turn 2, it's 9, and so on and so on. It's 18, 12, 9. So 18 inches out, you were getting +1 AP. On the board size that we play on, did I miss Necrons? You didn't.
No
Nothing
changes.
changed. Nothing changed. It was the same stated change from the previous one.
It's a living document. Think about the data slate as a living document. They will change things on here. So anything that's on here is current. It's not like you need to stack like 4 documents together, which is actually a really good. I'm glad that they're doing it this way. But yeah, what you see on here is how it like this basically replaces the previous one. So any changes on here is it. Anything that was on here that's now not off here is now gone. So things like that. But
Necrons need flat damage. You can take my flat 2s. I'll take your D6s, please.
I actually maybe it's not fully a living document because actually, well, fuck. This is actually interesting. We'll get to that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's 18 inches turn 1, 12 inches turn 2, and 9 inches turn 3, and then it goes away. But on the board size that 40K is played on, getting within 18 inches turn 1, easy as shit. And you're getting +1 AP with that. Like, you have your Pathfinders forward deployed. Like, that's a troop, right? Pathfinders are troops? Or are they elites? Either way. It's a unit of dudes, little dudes with guns that are hitting you with -2. Fast attack. Oh, they're fast attack, butt core, and they're getting it was gross. I was getting murdered by that shit. So I'm really glad to see that get changed to a reroll wound rolls of 1. Still very useful, but not as devastating, not as consistently devastating. Change the first bullet point of the devastating counterstrike for Farsight Enclaves to read each time a model with this tenet makes a ranged attack at a target that targets a unit within 9 inches, the target is treated as having a marker light token. Okay, within 9, they get +1 to hit, or they can spend that marker light token to get +1 to hit, or something. I don't know how marker light tokens work. I'll be real. But the big one, the one I really care about, bullet point number 3, baby. Yeah, fuck you, broadsides. Even though storm surges are the ones that need to get. So, Sauce, Matt Yee brought up a really good point. New storm surges are with upgrades. Call them like 350 points. Super heavy auxiliary detachment, 350 points. Absolutely shit tons of damage getting thrown out. Enough to kill a knight. Mathematically, one round of shooting from a storm surge going relatively well will one-shot a knight. And it costs 200 points less than a knight. That's some bullshit.
Yeah, well, I mean, what you're not factoring in is that you have to give up all self-respect to play fish people, which I think is worth 200 points.
You think self-respect is worth 200 points?
Per model.
Per model? Oh, okay. Oh, it's per model? Okay, there we go. That's fair.
No, there's clearly better. I think one thing we'll do a thing at the end called "What's Not in This Data Slate," and we'll talk more about that, which I think will. I'm having this discussion with my team as we speak, that I think is very interesting.
And I think the last thing, just the repulsor impact fields for the photon grenades, the charge roll modifier incurred via the stratagem is not cumulative. Okay, so cool. So you can't stack a bunch of negative modifiers to charge. Okay. All right, whatever. That was pretty much the data slate. So what specific things would you like to go back to, Sir Sauce?
Well, broadsides are fucking dead.
Yeah, broadsides are gone, which I'm cool with.
Okay. I mean, there's Tau. I think the important thing we talked about it a little earlier. The crisis suit indirect spam is very dead. If they don't get a marker light on you, and if you are playing on a tournament table with forests, and you are smart when you do player place training and you put down your forest correctly, the crisis suits are hitting you on 6s. So that's Tau took a huge L on the non-line of sight spam. Broadsides are fucked. Which they still They still have infantry though, so they can just walk through walls, which is still very good. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Tau, I don't feel like got hit as hard as Custodes, but I'm not super familiar with the full ins and outs of them. I know there's Tau players in here, so chime in, but I feel like they got hit on a very particular list build that I think, at least in my meta, people were already moving away from.
That's
So I
that
don't
is
think
a
that they got
good.
hit too bad.
The way I'm looking at it is they got the what's being called the the death of broadsides, the loss of the core keyword on broadside battle suits. That's one of their 4 data points here that were changed. That one hurts a lot for them. As I mean, even as a non-Tau player, I could see how devastating that is. I feel like Custodes got the equivalent of 3 of those. Like all of our bullet points are remove core from the super good unit. One of them actually literally was remove core, or not remove core, but remove OBSEC from anything that's not a troop. Can Tau keep up with Suns? Like T-Suns?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I watched a somebody who I would not I watched Tau obliterate T-Suns the other day. Tuesday. Just absolutely shit on them. With the changes now, I mean, how much AP2 is in Tau though? That's the real question. Because with a lot of AP2, they're gonna really struggle against T-Sun's Terminators though.
Well, the Mont Ka thing with the 1812, like whatever, they're gonna have AP2, AP3 in that threat range. So unless the T-Suns player puts their Terminator blob in deep strike, waits until turn 3, and then deep strikes them in to mitigate the risk.
The plasmas are really good on the crisis suits. That's what guy in my meta is running. It's really good. So that will still obliterate the T-Suns because it'll still put them on their invul, and then it's just how many 4-ups can you make. Okay, things that are not in the data slate, and this is a very interesting thing to consider when comparing the 2 data slates. Knights are no longer on here.
Probably in advance of the codex coming out, just like Tyranids. They don't want to make changes to a list or changes before the brand new codex comes out.
So here's why this is very important, and they're going to need to fact this or answer this immediately. Does that mean that Knights lose OBSEC?
Oh shit, you're right, because like you said,
data slate edition. And the evidence that I would say Knights lose OBSEC is because we see things that rolled into this data slate. For example, the Orcs is the exact same wording. The Necrons is the exact same wording. But Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights are off of this data slate, which that is how they gained OBSEC. So do they no longer have OBSEC?
I would say that they still have OBSEC until it is directly stated how this living document works from GW. Like if it is not on the data slate, it doesn't exist anymore. Like you would believe this implies.
So until the book drops, do Knights have OBSEC? Can anybody definitively tell me yes or no?
I can't. But again, like I'm the ask for forgiveness rather than permission kind of guy. So if you're not seeing it, but it wasn't explicitly stated that it was taken away, I'm going to assume it's still there and they just didn't put it on the list.
But why would they? I understand the intent is to keep this a document, but if you remove Knights from a living document, because my understanding is each data slate replaces the previous one, Knights no longer have OBSEC. And I would, rules as written, be very hard pressed to agree with somebody who disagrees with that. If I am a TO, Knights no longer have OBSEC.
Okay.
Because rules is written there. This data slate, unless we get an FAQ saying that the data slates stack, yeah. And this is the problem with rules as written and rules as intent, is we could argue all day about what they intended to do, but as written, I would say Knights no longer have OBSEC, which is very interesting. And until their book drops, for example, I have 2 GTs before their book drops. I know there will be Knights players there.
And they're going to probably assume that they still have OBSEC.
There's going to have to be a ruling.
Yeah.
There's either going to need to be an FAQ like nearly immediately, or there's going to have to be rulings from TOs. Rules is written. I would say Knights don't have OBSEC anymore.
So I have not seen an official ruling on this or an FAQ, and maybe because you're granted this isn't directly related to what we're talking about, but with Custodes, Shadowkeepers have the ability that they're -1 attack for opposing units. The only thing I saw was that it applies to all units within engagement range as opposed to just one. So, but it also doesn't stack. So it's not like, you got 3 units, it's -3 attacks. It doesn't work like that. It's just flat 1. But it doesn't state a limit on the number of attacks. And there's nothing in the core rulebook that states that an attack characteristic can't be reduced to 0.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, yep. True.
So
did they fact that though in the Shadow? Was that
I haven't seen. I went through and looked for facts. I checked the book again. I checked the core rule book. This actually, the reason why I'm bringing it up is Glarblar here in chat is one of the guys at my local game store, and he was the guy TOing a 1,000-point tournament we were in, and this is the exact question that came up because my opponent charged my Achilles with a unit of guardsmen to get them on the objective to take the objective away from me. And he's like, okay, I'm going to roll my 11 attacks now. And I'm like, no, you get 1 attack.
Yeah, your sergeant can punch me.
And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Shadowkeepers. And so we asked the TO and he checked the books, he checked the facts. He's like, there's nothing that says, like, it doesn't specifically say to a minimum of 1. So I haven't seen any facts that come out that clarify that. So I'm assuming that you can take a lot of these units down to like 1 attack for the whole unit, which is pretty spicy.
That doesn't answer anything to me, Dawnfire. I get the point, but so do they not have OBSEC? Why would you argue that they still have it? Because it's not on this data slate. I would say that they're saying that you need to wait for the book to drop and you no longer have it. That's how I would read that sentence. See, this is the problem with rules as intention, is it can be interpreted a different way. It has, yeah, so it will be in the codex.
But until the codex comes out,
until the codex drops, I don't think they have OBSEC anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I hate the fact that I agree with your logic because I want my knights to have OBSEC, but if they are going to go so far as to clearly show that, like you said, with Necrons, with Orcs, although there weren't changes to Sisters in the previous data slate. Sisters were not mentioned in the previous one. So now they are. Fact for the data slate 2 weeks from now. It seems unfortunately that GW, like, while well-intentioned, they, granted, with a game as complex as this, even if you have a whole team developing these sorts of things, you're always going to have something that gets missed. Like, and questions then get drawn up like, oh, knights aren't on the data slate. What does it mean? And everything they have done, like you said, points to this being a living document. If it's on it, it exists. If it's not, it doesn't. And while we all know that this Knight's OBSEC rule is going to be in the codex, if they're like, oh, it's going to be, the codex comes out in a few weeks or a month or whatever, then we'll just put it out in that book, take it off the data slate. Now they've caused a whole hullabaloo.
Yeah.
Rules is written, they don't have it, but as an opponent, I'd allow it.
I would not.
I'd say if it's an oversight, but not sure.
Yeah, I just don't like as much as I could disagree with as much as I'd like to say I think it was an oversight, right? Like, I think Knights should have it until their book drops. I don't know if that's the intent. And if this whole balance was written in mind with Knights not having OBSEC, that would potentially change the rest of the update. So all we can do is go off of the actual words that are written and not play the intent game, which, you might not agree with the intent of the game. You might have issues with the rules and the reasoning behind making changes. But the reality is the rules are, I would hate to say black and white because of how bad GW's wording is, but in a lot of cases, the rules answer our questions about what was intended. And sometimes they write them so poorly we don't even know what was intended. But all we can do in those instances is go to rules as written. And you don't have to agree with rules as written, but rules as written is how the game is played. If you would like to play by intent, you can do that. But in a competitive setting, whether it's good or bad for the game, nobody will play rules as intent because we don't know what the intent is. It's just a guessing game.
Yeah, and the
And I
idea
think that's
that
the problem with it.
and Mike Testa like saying that you'd be generous enough to say like, hey man, I think we both know what GW meant, so I will let you do that. They go to their next opponent, and their opponent's like, rules is written, dude. No, you don't get it. Like you're like, well, the previous guy did, and that causes a whole new set of problems, which is why I mean, in a casual game, play it however the hell you want. But if you're in a tournament, then it falls to the tournament organizer to make a ruling, and then people are going to be mad at the TO, and the TO's like, guys, I have to make a call. GW made it unclear, so it's
As a casual player, you're going to want to talk about this with your opponent before you play. As a tournament player, you're going to want to ask the judge their ruling on this if you're going to bring a Knights list, but I would be very surprised to see Knights keeping OBSEC until their book drops.
Which, I mean, that sucks for Knights players, but it's not exactly like this is a huge... It's not... Knights weren't being seen in the top tables of tournaments going into this. It's not like this is going to be a huge nerf to the meta as it currently stands.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, so I that one's interesting to me. That one's
He had to check. He was listening for either animal sounds or probably Mrs. Sauce summoning him.
I feel like I heard a knocking.
A knocking at your basement door.
Maybe. I'll be right back.
All right, I will transition to just FaceTime. You get just me now. I will take this opportunity while Sauce is stepping away to say yet again thank you to Teep Games Spain for the insane raid. And Nico, thank you for the follow. Juan, thank you for the follow. Extra Juan. Oh, the extra one. I get it. I like that. Unless that's rules as written, not rules as intended. I really appreciate it. But thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. I'm having an absolute blast talking about this data slate. I am a relatively new player as far as how 40K is played. Talking about something like this with someone who is very competitively minded like Sauce is very beneficial for me. I hope it's beneficial for all of you. Quick, Rhino, do you know how you can save 15% on car insurance by switching to Geico? Not a sponsor, although Geico, hit me up. I'll take your money. Relatively nude player. No. 8-Bit Sweater, what's up, my dude? I really think you're sleeping on Death Guard. You missed. You're gonna have to go back. Oh no, wait, I don't have VODs. I turned off VODs. My bad, dude.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back. He's back. Let me turn back on the podcast view. There you go. So I was just saying that 8-Bit Sweater missed your epic rant on the rise of Terminus Est as a viable meta for Death Guard. Because he's sitting here being like, nope, Death Guard going on the shelf. It's all T-Suns now. I'm like,
I think that it's worth playtesting Death Guard again.
Death Guard,
it's a very
I
specific
sleep.
build. It's a very specific build. It definitely got a lot of buffs.
Beef and Ched, I sleep. That's right, I said it, 8-Bit Sweater.
Why did they nerf my Poxwalkers? Because they hate Death Guard having fun, dude. 6 point per model Poxwalkers is fucking garbage. I hate it so much. T, what up?
Hey, Tereo, what's up? Yeah, we got... I dragged Sauce out of the ether, brought him back to reality. I summoned him from the warp, the chaos demon that he is, so that all of you could hear his gorgeous voice once again.
Yeah, Poxwalkers got fucked, man. I will agree with you there. The points raises to Blight Lord Terminator still suck, even with OBSEC. But they went from what are they, like a 30? I think they're 38% win rate army right now. Let's look it up.
Death Guard?
Death Guard. This season, 39% win rate.
Oof.
Is Morty worth bringing? competitively, never. Never bring Morty to a competitive game. If you want to win.
That I got my ass handed to me with my emissary again, my emissaries list as the one I shared with you when I went into playing against Death Guard with Tycho. That was a shit ton of drones, both the ones with the flesh mowers and the fast ones that shoot. Greater Blight drones and I never remember the ones with the flesh mowers. But those, Morty, 2 Plague Burst crawlers, unit of Death Shroud Terminators, and the 1 unit of Poxwalkers, I said that already, and a Demon Prince of Nurgle. That was it. And I got wrecked. I got absolutely crushed. Probably because I used my Praetorian Plate for the wrong fight. Wowee. That was a mistake.
Yeah. I have a painted Mortarion. It's an awesome model. It's my favorite model that I've painted. I've painted 2 of them. They're amazing. Mortarion is worth a quarter of the points of your army. He's 490 points. And Tau just can one-shot him. Well, in one shooting phase. They ignore his invul one time. I mean, even fucking Eldar could just pop Morty. He's too much of a liability in a competitive game. He has play if he gets to you. If Morty gets to you, you are dead. Like, he will kill everything. But he just doesn't get there anymore.
If there was some way to deep strike Morty, then maybe.
Warp timing Morty previously was great. That's gone. All the delivery systems for him. I mean, you could put him in reserves. But then you have 490 points in reserves. So
everything. Let me laugh in Nightbringer. You know what the best thing to kill the Nightbringer is? Nightbringer. Because Nightbringer turns off Nightbringer's like limit of damage per phase ability. It also turns it off for Gazgul. And ignores his invul save. That was the best. There's a kid at the local store who was talking about how Gazgul is this unkillable like meat machine that like nothing can beat Gazgul. He's the best lead. I'm like, dude, I'll drop a 250 point model on the table that'll beat him in one fight phase. He's like, no way. I'm like, yeah, yeah, and I fucking did it. It was awesome.
You literally cannot summon Mortarion, just for the record.
Too bad. Oh, and speaking of summoning, Sauce, I'm going to be working on a Legion of the First Prince, Be'lakor demon army that I might be doing a little bit of... We'll try a soup with Chaos and Chaos Demons, see if it works out. But it's going to be the way I play Age of Sigmar and 40k at the same time, because demons are playable in both.
Yeah.
And he is a cool ass model. That's the other fun part about Be'lakor. I'm thinking of doing him albino. We're gonna make him a white Be'lakor. That'll be the fun challenge. Although it's not exactly like the most original idea in the world. So the fact that knights weren't in the data slate, that's a big
it's a very interesting thing. It's going to cause a lot of questions, and TOs are going to have to make rulings on things that are ambiguous. But that's a big problem. The NIDs were not in the slate.
Oh, tabletop minions. Thank you for thinking it's a cool idea. Also, guys, Uncle Adam's here in chat. I actually ran into him as I was leaving Adepticon. I was walking out with the model that I had entered in Resin Beast. I was just like, okay, time to go home. Oh, look, it's Uncle Adam. Well, I'm on my way out, so I may as well embarrass myself one last time. Hi, big fan. Shake hands. Yeah, I'm having a great time. Vince Venturella probably based the Titan of Body after his own physique, and then off I went. So that was fun. Gosh, what else?
NIDs are off.
NIDs are off.
I would say that there's NIDs. How do I say this sentence? NIDs are going to pretty much ruin the game for the next 90 days. And here's why. Because it's fantastic that GW looked at the data that was presented to them, that they were like, wow, we need to release this data slate early. It's very important for the health of the game. That's great. This is great. Like, this is exactly what you want to see from GW, is them seeing a problem and making timely adjustments. Whether the adjustments were good or bad, different story. But it is timely, I would say. And so that's great. The problem is they bumped it up 30 days early, which means that either all data slates move up 30 days or the next one is in 120 days, which is, you could figure out which one you think is going to happen. NIDS, their codex has been out for like 7 weeks. This whole like, oh, wait till the book drops. We don't know. Like, the book is out. It's been out. You could access this book on Wahapedia for free for the last 7 weeks. We know exactly what's in it. It has been fully leaked. It's very, very, very powerful. It is winning 61% of games before the book drops. It gets better. The book does nothing to change what exists. It makes it stronger. The only thing that's on the line is, will Crusher Stampede be allowed? And if the answer is no, there is a strong argument that the Leviathan build is even better. So this is fantastic that we got our data slate to fix the problems of the game now. What's going to happen in literally 4 days? 3 days.
3 days. I agree 100%. I am terrified. Like, being able to see what the book can do, because, you know, like folks like Tabletop Tactics, Tabletop Titans, Vanguard Tactics, all these guys have these books. They're playing games with it. They know what's in it. And it's disgusting. Like, oh God, how did Winters describe it? He said that getting into NIDS now, like if you were like, oh, I want to play 40K, maybe these Tyranids seem cool, or I've played for a while, maybe Tyranids, maybe now's the time. Now is the time, because it is such a different book to its 8th edition codex. So different that you're on a level playing field with people who've played the army forever, because it's so different. You're both looking at it going like, it can do that? It can do that? Like, units with 13 attacks on the charge. Like, what?
That's not even the thing. The thing with NIDS is the
mortal wound
flying
output.
guns, man. The flying guns, 2 heavy venom cannons on a harpy is the craziest shit ever.
Pitch, thank you for the follow. And yeah, the harpy is going to be scary. The God, exocrines have gotten better, because now they can move and shoot and have no penalties to doing so. What else? Gargoyles going from fast attack to being a troop. Just the Termagant's guns in general. Repnar, thank you so much for the follow as well. But yeah, it's just disgusting.
They're a very so I play, a guy on my team is Tau, and me and a Tau player and a NIDS player went to the bar between our matches on Tuesday. I usually play 2 matches every Tuesday. We went to the bar between, and we're just cruising Wahapedia talking through the NIDS book. And the Tau player is very good. Very, very versed on the game. Really like the guy. Has good takes, understands what's happening. And after reading through a lot of the NIDS book on Wahapedia, his comment was, NIDS is just Tau shooting, but better. So I think that pretty much, I mean, it's insane. Their shooting is very, very, very strong. The Harpies are very, very good. Heavy venom cannons literally just will, I don't know, maybe heavy venom cannons is the only thing that will stop Blight Lord Terminators.
Certainly is going to be Custodes.
Yeah, heavy venom cannons do flat 4 damage. So there is that shooting profile that will pick up a Blight Lord Terminator on a failed save, and it will put them on an invul every time.
What boogeymen factions do we have now? NIDS, Harleys, Tau, or yeah, they're not boogeymen anymore. Drukhari have lost boogeyman status. They're still very good, but they're not boogeymen.
Tau is going to float between A and S tier. Custodes are certainly A tier, if not bottom of A, maybe even B with these nerfs. Nids and Harleys. I think Harlequin still remains as S tier. I don't think this really changes them. I think the Eldar still aren't played because people are still playing Harlequins. Nids are just S tier, just flat. They are going to destroy everything. Carnifexes, you could take 3 in a unit. You could. Oh my god, dude.
The Carnifexes are now Armigers. You take them in units of 3, and then they split into individual units. They're devastating. When I was at Adepticon, I actually played. It was the most one-sided ass kicking I've ever participated in, but it was still a lot of fun. We played a 4-player game, 2,000 points a player, so it was an 8,000 point game of 2 guys playing Nids, 1 guy playing Crusher Stampede with existing rules, and the other guy who said, "Hey, I have like all the 9th edition rules from Wahapedia. Can I play those?" And we're like, "It's a fun game. Who gives a shit? Yeah, why not?" And then it was his buddy playing Imperial Fists, and then my Sisters of Battle against that. Crusher Stampede with the Harridan and a Hierophant. It was an utter ass kicking. The 9th Ed Tyranids are gross because, like they were saying, not only are they amazing at shooting now, but they're also really good in combat. There was a great comment from the guy who apparently is the #1 Tyranids player in Canada. He was sitting in with the Play on Tabletop guys doing a reaction to the new codex, and he was saying he's already workshopping an idea where you put like 120 Termagants on the board, and then you have 3 Termagants, and they just pump out a unit every turn, and you can't even target the Termagant unless there are less than 15 Termagants near her. So essentially this thing just keeps pumping out and resupplying Termagant units the entire game, and there is not enough shooting in the game to take these guys down. No Tau, no salamanders full of flamethrowers are going to be able to take this many troops down, and they just walk up the board with over 150 bodies.
I might just 3D print a whole Tyranids army. All I need is 9 Carnifexes, 3 Harpies, and then probably what are they? What's the big boy? There's a relic gun that does flat 5. It's strength 12, AP -5, flat 5. You can put that on one of the big bugs. And he has a bodyguard. He has bodyguard rules, so you can't even shoot him. Yeah, it's a Tyrannifex. I think that's it.
Yep, the Tyrannifex.
Do they have Tyrannifex warriors or something that has a bodyguard rule?
The Hive Guard.
Oh yeah, the Hive Guard.
No, excuse me. Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard have the bodyguard characteristic. Hive Guard went from the unit to bring that everyone's bringing 9 of to now. Nope, don't bring them at all, because not only are they more expensive, their shooting got nerfed, but now indirect fire got nerfed even harder. So, like, you're never going to see Hive Guard, period, in the new 9th edition list, but that's not even really a big deal, because they have everything else that is so good.
Bodyguard, to the comments in chat, Bodyguard only changed in the sense that you can't put them behind a ruin wall and then make that character untargetable. You still have to kill the bodyguards. And
it's now the bodyguard.
Is it Tyrant Guard? What the hell was the model we just discussed? Is very good.
Tyrant, yeah, because the kit builds either Hive Guard or Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard are the literal bodyguards. They're not the shooty ones. They're the melee ones.
So they have a 2-up save, which is good if you didn't know. You can, I believe, depending on what type of thing you take, can you give them a 4-up? This I actually don't know. If somebody knows Nids better, can you give Tyrant Guard a 4-up? I feel like the answer is yes.
Help, chat. Help.
If you can give them a 4-up, they have a 2-up save already. They're T6 with 4 wounds. They are no joke to chew through. I mean, the only thing that's chewing through them is other Nids with their flat 4 profile guns, because you're not going to see Custodies with their salvos anymore. The bikes are gone. So, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Yes, to a degree, Bodyguard has changed, right? Now that giant Tyrannofex is targetable because before you just put the Tyrant Guard behind a wall, he's untargetable. He just shoots everything with his Strength 12 -5 flat 5 gun, which is hilarious. That's not a thing anymore, which is good for the game. Same thing with changing the line of sight shooting. It's good for the game. It's great. A Tyrant Guard is still really good. You're still not going to be able to target the Tyrannofex for 1 or 2 turns, and when you can, he's still a Tyrannofex with a flat 5 damage gun. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, the other thing is that now the bodyguard rule, how is it worded? The change was specific to that. Doop. Change it to the character unit can use the lookout sir rule even if this unit contains fewer than 3 models.
So they can ignore bodyguard? Really? Okay.
So
I actually didn't know that detail.
It's not that it turns. It's not that it. I think it does take away like the ability to. People smarter than me. Bleh, I don't know if it still gives us that like. No, it does. It does specifically say change the end of the bodyguard abilities from enemy models cannot target the character unit with ranged attacks. Period. So the hide behind a wall if you're within 3 inches. Blah blah blah. 2. That lookout sir rule still works if you have fewer than 3 models. So if you take that Tyrant Guard unit of 3, shoot it down to 1, it still, functions with the bodyguard characteristic, but it still has to be like visible. And that's why everyone's saying snipers are back. That character sniping is now the thing, because rather than just being flat, you just can't target them, so snipers are useless. Now it's back to working around the lookout sir rule. God, I'm bad at explaining shit.
I was very confused by how they changed that. I still don't feel 100% comfortable understanding what the hell just happened to Lookout Sir and Bodyguard.
Well, remember the whole hide behind the wall thing?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with how that works.
So
I just don't understand how their changes to the bullet points necessarily totally change that. Because if Lookout Sir is still in effect, if I have a unit here, let me make sure that my camera's up so I can see where I'm putting my fingers. If I have a unit of Bodyguard that's here, and my character's here on this side of the wall, this character is still impacted by Lookout Sir, which means that if I have any other unit further up the field, you still can't shoot at him. Is that true or false?
That's false.
I feel like
because
why?
it's
because there still is a closer unit, even if you can't see them.
Actually, no. Release the budgies. They actually specify further down on the data slate. It specifies actually for crypto thralls.
Yeah, there actually literally is a bullet point just for them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is I still have a lot of questions about how much this actually changes Bodyguard, because if Bodyguard can still sit behind a wall and your character can still sit in front of the wall and you just have somebody upfield, I don't know if that really changes Bodyguard. I would have to reread this in the core rules probably like, I don't know, 10 times each to really understand exactly what. It's a little convoluted. They could have wrote this definitely better. So yes, Lookout Sir would change that, right? So Eliminators could do that. But, Eliminators, their good gun, the Las Fusel, doesn't ignore that, does it? Let me pull up Wikipedia.
Zalax and Albinosaurus Jones. Thank you so much for the follow, you two. Albinosaurus Jones. That sounds like the name of like a 90s animated, like off Disney film. Like the We're Back dinosaurs movie, but it's like, We're Back to the Rise of Albinosaurus Jones. I mean, I'd watch that movie. But it's my understanding to these changes is that now having the bodyguard characteristic be as long as you're within lookout sir range, they just flat out cannot be targeted. It doesn't state lookout sir anywhere within the bodyguard rule. Now it does state the lookout sir rule as the effect that it is creating.
Yeah,
So that means
the bolt
that
carbine ignores lookout sir in specific reference to the eliminators,
Mhm.
right? Here's the problem with that. You have one shot each in a squad of 3. You're hitting on 2s. So let's just say you hit all 3. You might not, but let's just say you do. You're shooting a Tyran effect, so you're wounding on 5. It's AP -1. So you wound 1 of the 3. The Tyrannifex now has a 3-up save, so he probably makes it. Even if it goes through, you only do 2 damage to it.
Yep.
He's now at 15 wounds and still has a strength 12, AP -5, flat 5 gun.
Yep. And so Tabletop Minions points out, he's like, don't take this the wrong way, but this makes me even more glad I don't play 40K anymore.
That's fair.
That is a fair take. I will not deny that there's a bit of a rules bloat happening right now. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why like I'm getting into Conquest, which is apparently very similar to old rank and flank Warhammer Fantasy. Like, look, he even like leans out into frame. Hello. But and also these guys are fucking huge. Like, here's a regular troop next to a Primaris chaplain. Like, these guys are big dudes. They're like 38 millimeter scale. Anyway, enough shilling for other games. Dropped him. Conquest is like 38
I will
millimeter.
continue to play competitive 40K exclusively. Despite the times where the game is just a literal nightmare and there's a lot going on, I don't know. I feel like the friendships and the people that I've met and the team that I play with and the organizations that we've built far outweigh any of the significant issues with the game. So, and I don't know. I really enjoy spending time with like-minded people and meeting new friends and stuff. So, despite the game having some serious issues at times that some have been fixed and now there's new ones on the table today, I think it's just um it's a thing that I really enjoy.
So I completely agree. The whole idea that like, oh, GW released a bad patch essentially to the game. Like, oh, this update's shit. Let's just assume everything they just released, utter garbage. We as players, granted, you prefer the tournament style approach to playing the game, so that does hamper this a little bit. But I'm the guy who, now that Tempest of War has been released, this is where I live. This is how Doc wants to play. This is the way that I would like to approach secondaries. They're random with a mild amount of control in the case that you can cycle through them to a certain extent every turn, but secondaries pop up at random each turn. That's when I focus on them. If I didn't get it, okay, fine, flip it out. Let's bring in some new ones and a more casual approach to the game. And of course, anytime we're playing the game, we can always choose in a casual format to just ignore whatever the hell we want to ignore. Like, I mean, bringing up the knights obsec rule. Like, oh, you and I are playing a friendly game sauce. Like, can my knights have obsec? Yeah, sure, dude. Go ahead. Problem solved. We play 40K the way we want to play 40K. Now, again, when you get into the tournament mindset, I think in its own way has its own beautiful challenge in that you're now trying to like game a system that in so many ways is like it's accidentally making things harder for you. So it's that extra layer of challenge to be like, hey, look, I've figured out how to make my custodies still work after these nerfs. Mm-hmm. Like, you get to feel that sense of pride because you're like, you figured it out. You found the chess move that puts you back in the game. That's because Rhino is a boomer. Fuck you, budgies. I'm not a boomer. Granted, I did turn 30 and then my arm went to shit, but that made me feel very old.
I feel like the tournament scene is the most balanced version of 40K that exists, flat out. And it would be very hard to talk me off of that hill. And it's because it is the most non-randomized version of the game, allowing the dice to be the only factor.
Well, the dice and your capacity to control and know where to place your models. Like the human and the dice factor are the only things affecting the game.
Mhm. Yeah, the more randomness you can remove from the game, the more balanced it gets. I mean, we are talking about Games Workshop writing a balanced game, which we all know is quite the meme. But on top of that, we have dice. And other than those two things, in theory, the game is effectively balanced. When you start adding in random secondaries, that's when I lose interest because then it moves away, in my opinion, from skill based. As much as we could call, if we're assuming that the game is balanced, I believe that random secondaries move away from skill based. But I think that there's also an argument that random secondaries encourage skill based, right? Like how flexible of a general are you? It just is a type of game that I'm not interested in.
Yeah, and see, it's funny you made the exact argument that I was going to make. I'm like, I think bringing up somewhat like an all-rounder list and being able to respond in the moment to different new objectives as they come up is just as, if not, because of course I'm gonna fluff up the way I like to play a little bit more. It makes you just as, if not better, of a general than someone who builds a list to play to one specific secondary set for a whole game.
Mhm.
But again, like Uncle Adam said, it's having so many different ways to play any sort of tabletop war game, 40K or otherwise, is great because then that means there's something there for everybody. That means there's more people in the hobby and we can all enjoy it together.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody should find what tabletop wargaming is for them, right? That's why we're all here. I think some people are here because they just like to paint. They maybe just like the lore. There's a lot of reasons to be into it. I think if somebody's into it for just painting, I would say see what you could do to get into the playing scene because you can find more people than you will find just painting in my experience. You will bump into more like-minded people and you will grow as a human from experiences of talking to them. You will make friends with people that you would never interact with in any walk of life. You will make international friends who you would never talk to, and that's how we all like grow as people, right? Like I was having this conversation the other day. I was hanging out with Kath and Doinks painting, and I was like, dude, isn't it weird that me and you are friends and you live in Germany and we talk almost every day? And we paint together and hang out together and we share experiences and conversations and we grow as humans by just talking to each other. That same thing happens across the tabletop from somebody. And I love painting. That is such a cornerstone of this hobby to me, but that's not why I got into this hobby. I got into this hobby to play the game. And I just happened to fall in love with painting along the way. But figuring out what you want out of tabletop gaming is so important. And for me, it's playing tournaments because that's where I meet people. It's fun to spend a weekend playing a game that I love. And it's fun to meet somebody that I would have never met and learn about them, learn about what they do, learn about who they are. And that can, at times, impact my life. Who they are, their perspective could change mine. And that's why tabletop wargaming is so important. And I think the people get so hyped up and get so salty sometimes because it can feel like the thing that they love the most is, can be just brutally punished, right? Like our custodies. It's
Mm-hmm.
so easy to talk about custodies right now and be like, oh my God, custodies are completely dead. What's the point of this? Um, but in the grand scheme of it, we're just trying to have fun. And I think a lot of people should just experience playing the game and sort out what type of player they are, what they want out of a game, and their local community will significantly impact. I will say that my local community is far less balanced, and I'm way more likely to have significantly less fun in a casual game than a competitive game. I would say that my local community, my competitive community, is very good. I've met a lot more people who I have things in common with and want to spend time talking to and hanging out with. And I think that that could change in every city.
Oh
And so
yeah.
I would say that's probably what dictates me being more about um, being into the tournament style of play. But that comes from playing almost every 40K game that exists and then just really finding my footing in the competitive scene and being like, this is what I like. This is what I like to do. These are the types of people I like to hang out with. This is the way I like to play the game. But that is super different for everybody, and I think it's really cool that we are given a unique set of rules for each type of play. I think the new cards are fantastic. I think it's such a cool idea and a cool approach to the game, I highly doubt I will ever play it, but I'm glad it exists for other people. And I think it's great because it streamlines competitive play with casual play. It's all the same secondaries, which is a fantastic way to get everybody to their first tournament, which I'm still a huge proponent of. Everybody needs to go to one Warhammer tournament to figure out for yourself.
Absolutely. And you know, it's funny. I was working on, and I actually contacted you about, I was and still am, because this is, I think, a step in the right direction, but I think more can be done. I thought the fact I loved the open war format. Maelstrom was super old, so it almost to the point where it was non-applicable, and you'd have to make a lot of changes to it to make it work in 9th edition. But I wanted a card set that would help transition people from the open war style of play, which is very casual, no secondaries, just primaries for 1, 2, 3 points. And then you immediately jump into match play where you're going, 4, 8, 12 or 5, 10, 15 with optional mission specific secondaries in addition to the secondaries that you bring on your own that you have to plan out, build your list around, and have alt picks based on what your opponent brings. And there's a lot to take in. And for me personally, I suck at that. The picking the secondaries and the general mentality of how to build a list to do certain things, it just doesn't work for me. But then they introduced this Tempest of War, which has secondaries that only exist for a turn, and they're random, but they're random from a set, like the 2 decks with secondaries in them for both players are the same. They're not going to be in the same order. That's fine. But you're working with the same deck of cards. You keep playing with these decks, you're going to be like, all right, Sauce has drawn, these secondaries, but he hasn't drawn this one yet. If he gets that one, I'm fucked. So I need to, take advantage of what I can now before that one gets drawn. That's my format. Now, I have done tournaments. My local meta, I would say, is pretty good, but the whole idea of a casual game requires that both players be upfront ahead of time about what constitutes a casual game in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
If your idea of casual is, I allow the occasional take backsy, but I'm using my tournament list. I want to play my tournament list. This is my tournament list. And I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I brought a list that was, I don't know, only Outrider bike units.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not playing White Scars just to see what it's like. Like, I'm just here to goof around, and you're like, okay, Void Weaver spam, let's fucking go. It's not going to be a good time. So knowing, and that's a discussion you have with your opponent. Like, what are we doing? What are we playing? Are you going to allow my knights to have OBSEC or not? That sort of discussion. And once you have that discussion, once both parties know, I think that'll always guarantee a good casual game. But if you have somebody shows up for their first game ever, I'm like, oh, hi, Mr. Sauce. My name's Dr. Rhino. I just got into 40K. I just finished painting my very first 500 point combat patrol box of Death Watch, and I'm so excited. Would you like to play a game with me? And you're like, sure. And then you just drop Morty on the table. Just like, all right, you're going to lose. It's that sort of approach for me.
Yeah. Tabletop Minions is a great point. Here's the thing. I feel like obviously we all know Tabletop Minions is like a great representation of our hobby. Like he's got great opinions. He's a great advocate for what we do. But there's something very important in what he wrote, that he's tried it and they're not for him. And I think that a lot of people have strong opinions about the tournament side of the scene, and they've never done it. And I am a huge proponent of fuck around and find out, dog. You know what I mean? Just get out there and see if you like it. Like that, because my experience was incredible. My first tournament I went to, I was like, I want to do this all the time. I love this. Some of like my greatest homies in the hobby are tournament players, and I've met them exclusively through that. And that was because of my experience. I had such a good experience with this tournament. that I fell in love with like competitive play. But I think it's so important to just try it and then decide for yourself. So I can completely respect people who are like, I've done this, I don't like it. That is totally fair. But I would definitely say try it first. I think it's so important to get out there and figure out the way that you like to play Warhammer. And like casual, right? Like, the casual thing is the reason that I prefer competitive play. I believe that the only balance in 40K is if both people show up to kick each other's dicks off. I don't think that there's a way to balance a game with that much ambiguity about what I think is a casual list versus your casual list might vary dramatically. And
Yeah.
what I'm looking for out of a game can vary dramatically based on, the art. Like there's too many variables based on relative opinions of the game. But I think if two people show up to beat each other and bring the best possible list they can, that is the closest to balance that we can find in the game, which to me translates to the most fun I can have in the game. But it is definitely unique experience per um, you know, per person, per meta, per club. Everything is different, but you really just got to get out there and try. And I think that that's the big takeaway from this data slate. Some things feel good, some things feel really bad. Some things feel like they weren't touched and should have been. Some things are completely ambiguous and we have no idea what they intended. But we're just going to have to get out there and play. We can have opinions, but until we go play with this data slate, we don't know.
Yep. And it's actually Glarblar said it very interestingly. I prefer casual play instead of casual lists, where you're more relaxed on, like, certain rules, or out of sequence, like, oh shit, I forgot this from my psychic phase, that sort of thing that we were that 8-bit had even asked about, like that sort of approach in a casual format, but still with a competitive, quote unquote, competitive list. Now, if you want to be a little bit more narrative, be like, hey Sauce, like what if we did the Isfan drop site massacre, and like you get to put your dudes in the middle and I'm gonna surround you with my guys and we'll fight it out that way and do more of a storytelling thing. If we're both agreeing to tell that story and one side gets, more dudes than the other, then okay, fine. That's something we're both agreeing to. But I really like the idea of, like you said, kick each other's dicks off, because the only way to know really that it's balanced is if you're bringing the best of what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And this data slate, I think overall, like if I were to give it an out of 10, like, 1 being set it on fire, delete it from the internet, and 10 being like, I hope it never changes, I'd give it a 7. I think overall it did a good job for the meta. It's just a shame that, like to get this far, I had to sacrifice my boys.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I would give it an 8.
You would give it an 8?
I would give it 1 extra bonus point because I really do respect the shit out of GW for dropping this early. Because of the fact that they said, we understand there is an issue with this game and we have to address this, I would give them an extra point. Because I do actually think it's probably 7 out of 10 on the rules. Like some things were perfect, some things were way overdone, some things were underdone. I think that this is a very good indicator and will continue to be an indicator of what we hope to see from Games Workshop, which is some sort of focus and emphasis on doing the best that they can to balance the game. And when it's not, adjusting it timely and appropriately. And I feel like they got most of that right. I would give them a C on getting that right, but I would give them an extra 10 points on the test for doing it early because it was very needed. And that's it. I would give it's a hard B minus. It is the hardest B minus I've ever seen.
And that's a good way of approaching it. The fact that they, like you said, they recognized the meta was in a toxic state. Like just too many void weavers, too many void weavers. Goddamn, too many. And although you did make an interesting point, like, does this mean we're going to go 120 days?
120 days bugs, people, it's coming.
Yeah, like, is it now like everyone's going to have to just wait patiently, like start the clock now, like the clock until NIDs get nerfed is 120 days away, or is this whole year going to be bumped up a month in their changes? Oh, see, Sauce, I was talking about, I'm sorry, it wasn't 200. Hero was running 300 white shields for his guard list. But yeah, I think I think that's it. Anybody have any questions? Because this has been a much more higher attendance event than I thought it was going to be. I was just using this as an excuse to chat with my boy. They massacred my boy. I remember White Shields. You remember? Oh, Tabletop Minions, thank you for the follow. I feel special today. I feel special for many reasons. This is just that nice little cherry on top. All of your follows, many cherries. This hot fudge sundae is just mostly cherries now. We want more Rhino 24-hour stream. No. If you get it all the time, it's not special anymore. By the way, just another friendly reminder for everybody. If you do !sauce in the chat, you will get links to all of our main man Sauce's various platforms, his YouTube channel where he puts out awesome content, his Instagram where he puts out awesome content, and Sprue Slayer. I'm repping one of the shirts right now, long sleeve shirt. He's repping one of the hats. There's also on the back of the shirt is this the awesome Sprue Slayer logo. It's some good stuff. Go get you some. I big fan. I stan Sprue Slayer. So
I did change my Instagram handle.
He did change his Instagram handle. Oh shit, I need to update that, don't I? Yeah, there it is. The Sauce Slays.
I don't just paint. I also do other things.
You should see.
I paint Grimdark.
Have you posted any of those new photos of your custodies that you've been taking, those macro shots?
I put a reel up.
Oh, guys, you need to check this out. He's changing the game. The meta of miniature photography is being changed. You see it here, you see it now. Get it. Get in on the train before it leaves the station, because I'm just going to be sitting there waving my white handkerchief wishing you all the best because I can't take photos. Faux shit. Make a sword out of GW sprues. Oh, so do the trapped under plastic thing, make a logo but use sprues to do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to shake things up on Instagram. I guess that's my update. I'm just trying to do stuff differently, and at the cost of hundreds of followers, I'm trying new things every week.
Well, what did you say? What's your integrity costs about 200 points? Let's say it also costs a couple hundred followers.
Yeah.
Play fish people or shake up the photo meta for miniature photography. Your choice. 200 points, 200 follows.
That's it. That's it. Get out there and play, everybody. Go play the game or paint or read lore, whatever makes you happy. Just do whatever makes you happy. But if you're at all interested in playing a game and you really want to see how this data slate really works, make it a 6-month goal to attend a tournament.
Most local game stores will totally be down to host tournaments. So if you go to your local game store and say, hey, do we have any tournaments lined up for the next 6 months? If they say no, say like, can we? And they'll probably say yes. They will probably say yes, because tournaments mean bodies in stores. Bodies in stores mean sales. And it's community building. Like, most stores care about that kind of thing. Most good stores care about that kind of thing. Hell, I bet most bad stores care about that kind of thing. So yeah, I love taking photos of miniatures too. Don't do it traditionally. Sauce, you have a fan. Question.
We're editing our photos to the moon now.
I picked up Custodes from a friend getting out of the hobby. 10 guard, 10 wardens, 6. That's a lot of wardens. 6 termies and a blade guard and a blade champ, I'm assuming. 10 Sisters of Silence. What should I get next? Yeah, dreads and tanks. Dreads and tanks. Telemon, always a solid shout. Galatus, almost always a good take, regardless of shield host. But yeah, essentially you have everything you need from the plastic side. You're now going to have to step into the resin side if you want to continue painting them as shadow keepers.
I would previously say bikes, but
not anymore.
I do not want to run bikes anymore.
Well, I was starting to build another bike. I was starting to build one more bike, and I literally just pushed it all into the box and was just like, nope. I have better things to do with my time.
My dream Custodes list of 19 bikes. So feels good, man.
Oh, fuck. That's you got to run it at least once though. You spent all that time on it.
Yeah.
Should I get a single bike general? Yes, specifically because you're playing Shadow Keepers. Having a captain on bike is very important because he has one of, if not the best relics for Custodes, period, which is the Stasis Oubliette. That ability means that characters that he is fighting with cannot take invul saves against his attacks.
Good. It's a way to write Assassinate into your list situationally, and that's where Custodes struggle is with built-in secondaries. Custodes naturally play Stranglehold. They most of the time play Grind. Situationally, they play Bring It Down, which they might not anymore with changes to bikes. But you want to write at least one more secondary, if not 2 or 3 more, into your list. Shadow Keepers have that built in. I really like the idea of being able to take a assassinate list with a bike captain, because the first time you kill a character with a captain on bike, you can assign a different shield host trait to him. So then you give him Solar Watch so he can fall back, charge, and be +1, and then he is just bopping.
Yep.
Fucking guy is bopping the table, molly-whopping characters, racking you up 3 points a pop. It's a good secondary trick up your sleeve. You also want to consider writing an Inquisitor into your list for the same reason, to psychic interrogate people. And then now with the changes to bikes, one positive I would say about the fact that our book just got nerfed into oblivion is that now we will actually be able to write to the last lists, because to the last lists were nearly impossible previously because they were your bikes, and your bikes do die. They killed a lot on their way out, but they do die. So now you want to play more of, you could do 2 Caladius tanks and your Bop and Shield Captain on bike. That is a good to the last option, because if they're shooting your tanks, that's great news for you. They're not shooting your other stuff. The tank will die because it only has that 5-up invul. But yeah, I think that there is some hidden tech to our new to the last builds now, because bikes are out. With bikes being out, it changes it. So we'll see. Custodians are still solid. You are playing an army of what is an army of Space Marine captains. Yeah, I don't know. I we'll see. They will certainly not be bad, but they are very arguably A tier now, if not top of B.
Yeah,
we will see how these changes to OBSEC really play out. That's the biggest one. The strats hurt. Infantry losing OBSEC hurts a lot more.
I think that it's more. I think we went from the bottom of S to the top of B. I think it was that significant of a hit.
I agree. I think that it's either going to be an A- or a B+ army now. I would not be surprised to see them floating around in the B+ conversation. I think that they were arguably A+, not S, before this. It's brutal. It is very brutal. It's a very direct nerf on their playstyle. We'll see. We will see. Is Eisenhorn any good? No.
I speak from personal experience. I tried running Eisenhorn. He has the ability to bring a demon host, which is really fucking strong if it's within range of him. But that's an additional 25 points. And when you do that, he's 105 points for... And when you're bringing it for psychic interrogation, like Sauce has pointed out previously in the stream, Inquisitor Greyfax is a really good one because she gets deny twice and she gets +1 to deny. And if you have her running around with a Sisters squad, that's also a -1 to cast aura. So it's a pretty potent combo. And Greyfax is cheaper in points than Eisenhorn. While yes, I agree, Eisenhorn's lore is paint the models you want to paint. Like I can't think of any situation where if you brought an Inquisitor and said like, I'm okay, here's Eisenhorn, no one's gonna be, oh, it's Greyfax. Outside of a big tournament,
literally not a Greyfax, not even close.
Like I'm gonna run my granted it's on play on tabletop and they won't care, but I know Inquisitors are on like 32 mil bases. The only base I could fit my Inquisitor on was a 40 mil, but it's Inquisitor Eddie that I made for my sister's list. That is probably what I would use in my Custodes games, at least for casual play, because yeah, it's a 40 mil base. It's not the right base. It's basing for advantage and so on, but God, it looks awesome. It just looks so good. How are Black Templars doing these days? You know, it's funny you say that, Don. Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming is saying that like Black Templars are now like his favorite. Like he's not going to run Iron Hands anymore. He's doing Black Templars.
They're probably the best Marines chapter now. Iron Hands were. There was a really, really strong argument that Iron Hands were. Black Templars are obnoxious to play against because they all have a 5-up invul, and now they're going to ignore AP1. They got better. I think that they were B tier before. I think they were B-ish tier. I'm trying to remember where Ardor put them. I feel like it was B tier.
I think they put all the Space Marines in C.
I think they put 1 or 2 of them in B. I think Black Templars and White Scars were in that list, and Iron Hands.
Are Death Watch going to get nuts? I think Death Watch were never not nut. They weren't nuts. They were nut. Singular nut. You can bring 39 Outriders with removing 1 AP, and that is stupid good. Salamanders are solid now. I don't think, like, everyone sleeps on Sallies. I think people just see other options as being slightly better. Salamanders were never not, at the very least, good. Like kind of that, I see why you took it. As a Black Templar player from 6th edition, I'm glad they finally got better, I guess. Funny enough, Tabletop Minions, they were never bad. When the Black Templar Codex came out, people were like, oh shit. Maybe they were a little underwhelming based on the hype, but they were never terrible. Yeah, I played Custodes against Black Templar and I lost on points. I only lost on 3 points, but the fact that you can take a 20-man blob of not acolytes, novices and assault intercessors and just like blob a Crusader squad just up the middle of the table and just be throwing buffs on it, it's really hard to shift, and they're
2 wound, 5-up invul, 20 points per model, 6-up feel no pain, sometimes a 5-up feel no pain is a very annoying list to deal with. It's it's hard for me to say they're good, but only in the like comparing them to top tier armies sense. They're good. Like there's people who win with Black Templars regularly. They're good. They can hang, man. Black Templars are. This is the thing about meta shifts, is that comparatively, when the top armies get brought down, relatively other armies get closer in power. So in a degree, we always want to see top armies be brought down, but sometimes what we're seeing is top armies go from here to like here, which is possibly what we've seen with some of these updates today. But when things come down, things relatively that were below it become better as a result. And so we could see more Black Templars.
We could see more Black Templars. And the way you describe that, like, you know, the way that buffs and nerfs happen, or the way balance happens, is usually to take the top performers, the over performers, and knock them down a little bit. It'd be interesting to see what kind of effects on the meta ecosystem it would be that, rather than, of course, like the changes that, say, to Harlequins need to happen. And in fact, we could argue that more changes to Harlequins needed to happen. But imagine, rather than focusing on nerfs, if they focus on buffs for really underperforming armies.
Which they did in this update, which is fantastic to see. The fact that they're looking at some of the worst performing armies of the game, Guard just ignoring the new non-line of sight stuff is amazing. Death Guard just getting better for reasons is great. So they actually are taking the balanced approach to this, that we're going to bring down the top, we're going to bring up the bottom, and we want to smash everything into that 55 or 45 to 55% win rate. This is actually indicative of them wanting to do that, which is amazing to see. What happens when something gets nerfed is it changes gatekeeping. So the gatekeeper to Grey Knights, for example, Grey Knights are not a top tier armor anymore because of Custodes. Custodes say you lose. That you lose against Custodes just flat out because of the 4-up to mortals, and because bikes just pick up Grey Knights every time. They just say, can you roll a 6? You lose. And so because we're going to see less bikes on the table, potentially 0 bikes, and because Grey Knights also they ignore AP1, plus on top of their Tide of Shadows, they now ignore AP2, and our -1 to hit, Grey Knights got better, right? It's an adjustment of the meta. As some things come down, some things change. So as things get reduced from a gatekeeping status, right? Like Harlequins gatekeep Custodes. That didn't change. They still do. Custodes gatekept Grey Knights. They arguably don't anymore, which then makes Grey Knights potentially much better because if they're viable through a Custodes match, then they play into Harlequins at the top table, and and Grey Knights have a match into Harlequins. Harlequins have a lot of AP 1 and 2 shooting, which is flat out ignored by ignoring AP 2. They can output a shit ton of mortals, which Harlequins have no response to. They just melt. This is what happens when the meta gets shaken up this much. As things get gate kept, you will see a dramatic shift. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to have to really play it out to see what feels like bad nerfs on Custodes. I think is bad nerfs on Custodes, but we'll see. It's just going to change the prototype. We're going to see Dreadnought builds, which is a -1 damage meta for Custodes, which is going to be interesting, but it's all going to be 5-up invul meta unless you run the Galatus. We're going to see armies that have no business potentially touching S tier again, which is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think I truly believe that every army deserves a quarter of the year. Like give some army S tier status. Not to the point of it being broken like Harlequins and Drukhari before them and AdMac as well, but like I want to see that time where somebody playing shit. What's an army that Imperial Fists. I want to see someone take Imperial Fists to the top table. Win or lose, I want to see Imperial Fists at a top table.
You didn't get enough of that in 8th edition?
I didn't play in 8th edition.
I know, I'm just kidding. You saw Imperial Fists and 3 Thunderfires and 3 Whirlwinds and 3 Securious Whirlwinds or whatever they are at every top table. They just turn one, your army was dead.
Okay, maybe Imperial Fists need to wait a little while.
They need a whole edition break. Imperial Fist is not allowed to come back until 10th.
The only God, what army memes have I heard about from 8th edition? The Necron Doomscythe spam. The 6 flyers.
There was awful lists in 8th edition. I mean, I was running the most like cancerous, awful, toxic, literally I beat you and you just watched me play the game Alpha Legion Chaos Knights list that I could ever write. It was literally awful. It was awful. I didn't even like bringing it to competitive gaming nights. I was like, this is horrible for the game. Like the way it operated is I had a -4 to hit character that was character blocking obliterators who were double shooting because they were Slanesh. So you couldn't shoot this character because he was -4 to hit. So unless you had a 2-up ballistic skill, which nobody was running Custodes, you don't hit him. And you can't target the obliterators until you kill him. And the obliterators are blowing you up with shoot twice. And then there's Chaos Knights in the background also blowing you up. It was awful. It was awful. The things that happened in 8th edition were so busted. So thank God we're past that. Yeah. Imperial Fists were a huge problem in 8th edition.
So
yeah.
Speaking of knights, because we also have Ixtab mentioning Castellans and Blood Angel captains. Where do you think knights, based on what they've released so far, any rumors, leaks that you may have heard? Like obviously, there are rumors, there's leaks, nothing can be guaranteed. But where is your guess of where the knights are going to land, meta-wise, when the Codex comes out? Chaos and Imperial, just kind of like lumping them together as just like one average. Are they going to be an A tier, an S tier, B tier, D tier army? Because my assumption is they're going to kind of be like sisters. It's going to be like there's some buffs, some nerfs, and they're going to essentially be what they were before.
Okay. I would say S tier. Hard S tier. They just removed a gatekeeper to knights, right? Custodes salvo bikes are not a thing. That's a knight gatekeeper list. That's not a thing anymore. The reason, and other than that, and this is tinfoil hat theory, you could say whatever you want. You could have your own opinion about this. Knights are going to be S tier because all of the evidence points to every single book that has come out this year being S tier. There has not been a single one that hasn't been. And the meta right now cannot deal with knights.
That last Tau
can.
can the mortal wound spam that's going to come out of Tyranids, plus just like you were just saying about the Tyrannifex having a strength 12 AP minus whatever flat 5 damage gun, unless
a Chaos Knight will obliterate that model though. So this is how Knights will work. Chaos Knights will be more flexible than Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights will likely have better strats. It's probably the TLDR. Chaos Knights will be able to easier adapt to what's going on in the game. I think that they will take off as a front runner. Imperial Knights will probably be a late runner to the table because Chaos Knights are just much more flexible. And they've alluded to that already in the previews that they can, the War Dogs being able to have a double shooty one, a punchy shooty one, or a double punchy one just says that they're going to continue the trend with Chaos Knights being very flexible with whatever they need. Do you need this gun? Cool, put it on the knight. Do you want this instead? Cool, put it on that knight. I can't imagine Knights not being S tier due to every book that's come out as evidence, due to a new model, and I don't think that there is the right gatekeepers in place. Broadsides are a gatekeeper to Knights. Those aren't a thing anymore.
The storm, I was mentioning before, though, the Storm Surge, there are people right now bringing 3 Storm Surge lists.
Mm-hmm. And then it's just who goes first, right? 3 Chaos Knights with thermal cannons pick up a Storm Surge and a half, probably a turn. So I don't know. I would say comfortably they're A tier, but based on this year's books, I have a hard time imagining them not being S. I don't think that there's been a great track record of writing books that feel balanced out of the gate. I think that there's a lot of data to back this up. And I understand it's a little tinfoil hatty, but I would say they're comfortably going to be A tier, but I would be surprised if they're not S.
I think the only way they'll make S is if they get a significant wound increase.
I don't think that they need that.
I disagree. I disagree.
There's only so much stuff, though, that can ignore invols.
But it's ignoring invols, a bunch of mortals, and flat 12. That's like a third of your night.
12, yeah. And then you still have the other 2/3 of that night, and then you have 3 more nights at least. So I do get what you're saying. I think the Tau, I agree with you. I think the Tau is very oppressive to knights. I think that the Tau builds that we see right this second aren't the best at dealing with knights. They do have what it takes to adapt. They do have shit that will be able to deal with knights. So they will be able to transition to a gatekeeper army for knights. I don't think other armies will be able to that are at the top.
I do relish the thought of someone trying to run the 6 Void Reavers and then just a bunch of knights just come up and stomp, 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 and they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice. That made me feel really good.
That would be a very interesting match. One thing to keep in mind about the Chaos Knights previews is the Chaos Knight Psyker. I mean, just that alone is interesting. But if they make no changes to Demonic Ritual, which is how Chaos summons, if this Psyker is also a character or could be made one, the Psyker can also summon demons, which gives... I mean, any Chaos Knight can, if it's a character. Which gives Chaos Knights an interesting secondary pick when they need it. I think that Chaos Knights, I think, will come out of the gate as very flexible, which will allow them a quicker response into the meta. If they're having a hard time finding a third secondary, they will just summon Furies for engage. They will summon Furies for Nachman data. They can summon, and that allows them to be more flexible than Imperial Knights. So I think that I don't know, man. It's hard for me to think about Knights not coming out as at least A tier. I would love to see them be A tier and not S, But as somebody who owns Chaos Knights, I don't know. I think that we need to move away from books dropping at S tier. It's really good for sales. It's really bad for the game. It's a business, so I understand why we likely won't. But I mean, I think, yeah, it's hard to imagine that book not dropping S tier based on the evidence that we've had with 4 books this year or whatever it's been. Has it been 4 books? It will be 4 books with NIDS.
Yeah.
Every single one of them has been S tier, undeniably.
I uh, I agree that the books this year have been incredible. I think the most balanced books, short of the actually the book was fine. It was the Army of Renown with the Speed Freaks that ruined it. Last year during the summer when Sisters and Orcs came out, I think those were two of the most balanced books for ninth edition that have ever come out, both internally and for the meta. They came out both at like a nice solid low A, mid B tier kind of feel, and Orcs shot back up with that with the Army of Renown, which came out of nowhere, and Sisters had an Army of Renown, but it was and
There's been a couple of armies since then that I think are balanced. Black Templars is a very, very balanced book.
Okay, nope, that's a good point. That's a good point.
It's gonna. I don't know what's to come, but I think Chaos Knights will take over after NIDS. Then Imperial Knights probably after that. I think that it's just gonna come down to how quickly the meta can adapt to a bunch of shitloads of big ass robots. And I don't know. Some armies will be able to. I think Custodies are really going to struggle with Knights now because we're not running bikes anymore. We could run one, right? If we go Knight meta, we'll be very tempted to run salvo bikes. But those salvo bikes are very glass cannons now. And for 255 points, a unit does not kill a Knight and is killed in return.
I think the response to Knights for Custodies is going to be on Golden Lighting, double fist Telemons and dropping them in behind, and one of them is going to be Eternal Penitent, charge in and 7 attacks, flat 4 damage, wounding on 3s, and yeah, I think that's the best we can hope for.
Hero Guard is good now.
Oh, Hero is.
Guard is worth playtesting the living shit out of. You are now running a 2,200 point army. You know this, and you're wounding everything in the game on 6s, or 6s to hit. You just wound it.
Yep. And one last note on Knights. My planned approach for Knights is going to be like 7 Armigers and 2 big Knights, 1 Megara, and then 1, because I'm playing Chaos Knights, one of the new Knights, and I'll of course have him magnetized so I can make him whatever options I want. But Megara, 2 big Knights, 7 small Knights. I think the use of Armigers, especially for Chaos, with how many options you'll be able to tool them with, I think it is going to be incredible, because I'm running 3 Moirax with double lightning locks in addition to this. So
yeah, just start getting a hold of Furies now, or start kit bashing them, because you are going to want to summon Furies everywhere.
I will admit I have no idea what a Fury looks like, so I think I'm going to have to do that.
They are outdated. I don't even believe you could buy it anymore. They're 45 points for 5 models with OBSEC. So you could summon them onto an objective and take it. You could put them in a corner for some knockmend data. You could put them somewhere to do knockmend once, make them deal with you, or else you'll knockmend in another quarter. Furies are obnoxious, and I believe they auto summon. I want to say that they are power level 3. So I guess as long as you don't roll 2 1s for your summon, you summon them. They're very good. They're very, very, very cost effective for what they do. They're a fantastic tool. And I know Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights are going to drop at the same time. I know somebody was talking about that in chat. The thing is Chaos Knights traditionally are more flexible. So right out of the gate, they will have more tools to deal with the meta, I would believe, based on historics. Imperial Knights, following same historics, will probably have better strats and things, so potentially would gatekeep Chaos Knights. So we'll see. Chaos Knights should be able to deal with whatever the meta is. We'll find out.
And aren't summons required to have reinforcement points?
Correct. So you write a list with 1,910 points, so you could summon Furies twice.
Works for me. And our obliterators.
You can summon all sorts of crazy shit. You can summon anything you want. Anything that's a chaos demon, you can summon it. There's no restrictions to it.
Are obliterators any good? If I remember one of the releases ahead of the Chaos Marines Codex, or they talked about the obliterator guns, right? Or am I making shit up? No, they did.
The leaks make obliterators feel like they're going to be very good. These are the same leaks that have been 100% true so far. These are not the meme leaks about the data slates or these other made up things. Whoever's sourcing these leaks through 4chan or wherever this shit's coming from, they have been 100% true. The leaks on obliterators, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I do remember they were pretty universally accepted from the CSM community as good.
Yeah, they took the average, because rather than you rolling to find out the strength, AP, and damage of the guns, I think it just took the average of all three. So it's going to be like strength 8, AP -2, flat 2 damage or something like that per shot. New Tyranid Codex has the Turvagon not requiring to have reinforcement points. Yes. The Turvagon or the Termagant, whichever one creates new NIDs, does not require reinforcement points. That is correct. Okay, Rhino, check this out. Neither Chaos Knights nor Imperial Knights have updates in this edition of the data slate. Yep, like we discussed, they're about to tear up the battlefields with new codexes, and some of the biggest guns you've ever seen in the Warhammer studio wants to see how they perform before making any changes, and those changes they saw in the previous data balance slate have been absorbed into the codex. That's from the preview, so confirmed the changes are gone until the book drops. Okay, budgies. Thanks. Appreciate you helping us confirm that. Sauce, you were right. They removed OBSEC. Knights no longer have OBSEC until the book comes out because they want to see how they perform without OBSEC. Which is terribly. They're going to go back to the shelf.
Correct. We won't see Knights until their book drops.
I hope they release the Renegades starter box. That's the other thing that I'm really excited to see, because there's rumors that you're going to get Chaos Renegade Guard kits as well as Cultist kits eventually. For a year of Chaos, going into the first half of it with a Chaos Knights box being the only real Chaos... Oh, no, I take it back. A carbon copy of the Tech Marine, but with more spikes, and then 5 new Chosen, I don't think constitutes a year of anything. And also feels bad for Guards players, because all rumors I heard last year was that this time, April, was supposed to be when the Guard Codex came out. It was supposed to, like, I heard, every rumor I heard was that it was supposed to be Guard versus NIDS, the Octarius sector and all that shit. It was going to be Guard versus NIDS, and nope.
I very much hope they sort out Renegade Guard, going back to that. I think it's, so from a business standpoint, there is no reason to not do that. It is literally, here is a kit, and then you sell an accessory sprue for infantry and an accessory sprue for vehicles and a book. You have done the overhead to get those produced and designed is 0. We know the cost of sprues are a penny. I cannot possibly understand why they would not do this. And then deeper in the same rabbit hole, the fact that we don't have a separate Renegade Space Marines book that's separate from CSM is also the same reason is insane. Insane to me. Like, why is there not a Renegade Primaris book? Literally, same thing. Release an upgrade sprue and a new set of rules. What are we doing? Like, these are ways to make money for basically free off a product you already have that expand the market of people interested.
And it's not just people who want to play Renegade Guard or Renegade Space Marines specifically are going to want these. Like, I could be playing a Loyalist chapter and I'd be like, oh my God, that set of upgrade sprues is exactly what I want for my custom chapter. Perfect.
Yep.
And you don't even need to make it a book. Make it a white dwarf.
Yep. So yeah, I hope that we see Renegade Guard, because I think it's, from a business standpoint, it would be dumb to not do it. But also, I think that it would be very cool. With the addition of squats coming back, Renegade Guard makes also sense to make an appearance. They're clearly adding new armies to the game. Let's add some fucking new armies. Like, let's do this. Let's shake up the meta. Let's put some new stuff back in the pot and see how it goes. I would absolutely love to see Renegade Guard. The leaks do say it's coming. The same leaks that have been 100% true. So I would expect to see Renegade Guard. I have a Renegade Guard collection that's in bags and bits all over the place, just waiting. It's going to be, I believe, a thing. We'll see how good it is.
There's
Guard
GSC
is going to be very interesting.
Guard. That is true. Tabletop minions. GSC Guard, the Brood Brothers does exist, and it used to be in the 8th edition GSC Codex. It used to be great. You could take as much or as little Brood Brothers as you wanted. It was all part of the same list, but now you have to make it a separate detachment, an Imperial Guard Brood Brothers detachment. And in order to receive the benefits of your cult, you can only take up to a quarter of the value of your army as Brood Brothers. So 2,000 point game, 500 points of guard, which, granted, guard pretty cheap. I happen to know that the army that I put together that I'm selling, the 500 points of guard is actually exactly 500 points with like 2 units of heavy weapons teams, an armored sentinel with plasma, a tank, a Lehman Russ, regular brood, like a unit of 20 or whatever, Brood Brothers, special units, like it's all of that. 500 points. That's a non-insignificant amount of shooting. So it's but it was just an extra spruce and a guard box. See, like this just shows that like Doc can't pay attention. Yeah. I literally couldn't finish a thought without reading something else. Dark Mechanicus. Mechanicus is Dark Mechanicus. Just hot take. But do the same for Trader Guard. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I have to run to work.
Yes, you do.
I will leave you with a conversation that my team is having right now.
Okay.
From my 2 Harlequins players. I will be running 100 troops and 2 Shadow Seers.
Like, how many units to equal 100?
20 by 5 or 10 by 10.
Oh my God.
They are, you can't hit them on better than a 4, and they all have a 4-up invul. Welcome to the Harlequins meta.
Oh my God. All right. Well, everybody give a big hype and thank you to Sauce for joining us today for what is a very long, very in-depth discussion of Warhammer 40k in general, as well as this data slate. He needs to get to work. So don't forget !Sauce in the chat for links to his stuff. I need to upgrade and update the link to your Instagram, as the name has changed to The Sauce Slays. But check out Spruce Slayer, check out his YouTube channel. Awesome content creator, just an all-around awesome guy. Yeah, thank you, Sauce. Thank you for being your awesome self.
Me. It was real. Only half of that hype is true, but thank you guys. Always good to hang out. Always good chatting. Let's get out there and play the game and hope that this balanced slate fixes things, or else we'll come back here in a few weeks and bitch about it.